interviewer, and you're on like the we're on the alternative news red carpet, and I'm dressed in a really.
Oopsie, sorry. I need to start again. Everything's so professional here. Let me tell you.
Oh, what? Do an intro for 357. I'm going to introduce you guys. Just pretend I'm a newscaster or some really hokey, phony interviewer, and you're on like the we're on the alternative news red carpet, and I'm dressed in a really ill-fitting tuxedo kind of thing.
It's got to be velvet.
Okay. Well, welcome. Hello, ladies, and aren't we lucky? Joni's here.
That's a lovely suit you're wearing, Stephen. I love that velvet. It's beautiful.
Yeah, well, it's crushed velvet. I've gotten stepped on a lot in life. And over here we have, this is remarkable. I didn't even think you were going to show up. You rode your bike here. That's very, very energetic of you, considering the heavy shoulders I'm sure that you must have. Welcome, Dr. Judy Wood.
I'm still catching my breath.
Yeah, well, you've been pedaling, I'm sure, for quite a while. You were down at the Motel 6, is the information that was it the Days Inn? Yeah, well, maybe we were mistaken. But anyway, this is so great that you guys are both here. I wanted to let the audience know that we're going to be doing a show, the three of us, called the 357 Show. And it'll only make sense when you listen in. It's going to be a character-driven media. Take it away, Joni. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to go take my makeup off.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, Stephen's taken his makeup off. Actually, I think he was putting his makeup on as far as the last time I checked in. So I'm wondering if, is Stephen there?
Yep.
Have you got your makeup on?
Yeah, I'm all ready to go.
Okay, good. Perfect. So we've got this great picture of Santa holding the crying baby. He's looking a bit scared there. I think this is a little flashback from our youth. Is Dr. Judy there?
Yeah.
There she is. I think we can all relate to this. This looks about our vintage, don't you think? Can you see it? Can you see it on the screen there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I had to restart mine because it's a little bit lagging, but yeah, I see the kid there and doesn't like being in a stranger's lap.
Yeah. I just thought that was the perfect image for this show because.
Oh yeah, for this year, not even last year. This year.
Yeah, actually, I've got something on here. Oh, I was looking at President Trump's discussion about the Christmas tree lighting, and then they compared it to Obama. Let's get political right away. That's my attitude. And it was quite the contrast. So I think maybe we'll have some happiness maybe next year. But this year's been a lot of wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kick, wah, kick. I wonder what.
And that's just me, you know.
Well, yeah, and when you bring up Santa, I mean, yeah, of course, given the kind of year we've had, and obviously what kind of trail I've been on for over 20 years. With regards to my children, it's like, well, let's see now. It's not so. It's a little more nefarious now when we see Santa and a crying kid, and you can't help but go there with all the pedophilia and stuff coming out, and it's like, oh God, I don't want to go there though. This is Santa, you know. There's a little 4-year-old in me, you know, wants to say no, not Santa, you know.
Well, we just have some. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, as I say, it's even worse when I was trying to get Joni to play my favorite Christmas song. And I think she looked at the comments first, and they're all like pulling up stuff I never thought of. You probably remember it's began in 1988 and was played on like all the radio stations. The restroom door said gentleman. You know that one?
No.
Well, we've got it lined up. So, you know.
Great.
This is kind of the way it's going to go today, I think. We're going to have a lot of weirdness. Should we play that? You guys go ahead and take a look on the screen. It's going to be a little bit of a lag time, but set it up for us, Dr. Judy.
Oh, it's just, it was one of the funniest, Christmas songs. And actually there's some of the people in the comments that say, Well, when I was growing up, my mother played this all the time. Like, it's not Christmas without these. It was Bob Rivers who did an album of twisted Christmas carols. Like,
Oh, okay.
like what was it about malls? Instead of deck the halls, it was something about nuke the malls or something
Deck
like
the
that.
malls. Yeah, that kind of goes along with Steven's theme, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Only
And
he's
about
not as
how
happy as Bob.
and after Christmas, you have all the bills that you can't pay, and it really it's an interesting twist on things, but it's fun. It's all in fun.
Mm-hmm.
And the restroom door, somebody pulled a gag and switched the signs, and so the guy walks into the ladies' restroom, and because it says gentlemen, so he goes in, and then he sees what was it, 2 nuns, 3 old ladies, and a nurse. What could be worse?
Exactly.
And how it ends up. Yeah, but go ahead and run it.
No, I'm just going to make sure I've got the right one because, one thing about Bob is that he keeps putting the same image
Picture
on all of his. Yeah, so how am I supposed to know?
Except it says it on the image. It says restroom door.
Yeah, well, not on mine. Let's just line that up, and I think we're ready to go. So we'll just mute, and people can hear how amazing this is.
The restroom door said gentlemen, so I just walked inside. I took 2 steps and realized I'd been taken for a ride. I heard high voices, turned and found the place was occupied by 2 nuns, 3 old ladies, and a nurse. What could be worse than 2 nuns, 3 old ladies, and a nurse? The restroom door said, gentlemen, it must have been a gag. As soon as I walked in there, I ran into some old hag. She sprayed me with a can of mace and smacked me with her bag. I could tell this just wouldn't be my day. What can I say? It just wasn't turning out to be my day. The restroom door said, gentlemen, and I would like to find the crummy little creep who had the nerve to switch the sign. 'Cause I've got 2 black eyes and 1 high heel up my behind. Now I can't sit with comfort and joy. Boy, oh boy, no, I'll never sit with comfort and joy.
I tell you, they don't make songs like that anymore. And are we glad about that? I love the fact that you're in the background just giggling away there, Stephen. I don't think you've heard that one. Anyway, I've got a lovely picture, too. This is a picture from that era in quotes.
But what the comments were complaining about, they decided it was a racist song because instead of 2 black eyes and 1 high heel up his behind, they heard 2 black guys.
Oh man!
and then the guy going into the ladies' restroom must be cross-dressing or transgendering or something. Last year, I don't even think people would have done that. Right.
They're not just cross-dressers, but they're black as well.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he got it wrong. He's not. Yeah, it's so ridiculous, man. It really sums up the year about how incredibly out of whack everything's become as far as the politically correct and all that. I mean, it's just nutty.
Yeah, it's pretty nutty. It's a far cry from what we had when we were kids, when everybody was trying to push the whole Santa thing and get us out to the malls and get us. Well, although this picture that's up on the screen, this is no one that we actually know.
We didn't have a TV, so I didn't see it. It was more of just a time of celebrating and having fun.
Well, this is what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, with the white gloves. That's what I liked about that picture, the white gloves.
Yeah, these are people we don't know, but it's so classic. It's exactly what it would have been in that era. The little socks. I mean, how old do you think that girl is? The tall one.
Probably 12, 14, 12, somewhere in there.
Stephen, did you know girls like this?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes,
We had to wear
yeah.
white gloves and those shiny patent leather shoes and white socks to church. I love
Yeah.
those socks, and I kept trying to find them after that. I mean, more recently, and you can't find them because I like them for my bike shoes because it gives you a nice protective layer to slide in so you don't get blisters.
Now, let me ask you, did you stay clean, Dr. Judy, as a kid? Were you pretty, like, were you,
Oh no,
did,
that was horrible. My mother would have these ladies' teas. My dad was the dean of the college, and so my mom had to have the ladies' teas. She hated it, and I had to be my one nice clean clothes. And
yeah.
I go out and play in the mud puddle, and man, did I get in trouble for that.
Well, that's Kim, because her mother was very fastidious and really, really well groomed and put together. And Kim, even to this day, if we go out to eat, I'm like, Kim, how did you get food all over your blouse? Like, wow, you know what I mean? It never fails. And if she's wearing white, not more than about a half an hour and something happens.
I think it's a rebelliousness that you get filled with.
I guess so, because her mother really wanted her to look so nice and bought her such nice little clean clothes and white, a lot of white. And no, Kim is just, it's not in her nature. But she doesn't do it intentionally. It's maybe you're right. Maybe it's this rebellious thing that's almost in her DNA now. Yeah, she's not even trying.
Yeah,
that was me too. I could never stay clean. It's a bit of a joke after a while, though. It's kind of fun. Who wants to be clean?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, there's another thing between boys and girls. Boys aren't expected to stay clean, right?
Girls are, even though they don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can even play baking, with the mud pies.
Yeah.
And what about this? I put another one up on the screen. Might be a little bit of a lag time for you, but these girls with the crinolines. That was the bane of my existence, the crinoline. And sometimes the hoop skirt.
What's crinoline? I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you don't know what a crinoline is? No.
Is that stiff? Not
that
lace,
stuff you put under the skirt to make it go
That's
out
right.
fluffy, and you try and sit down, it comes up around your eyeballs.
Face.
And it's just the scratchiest stuff you've ever felt. So you've got
I see it.
Basically undies underneath there. I'm sorry, but I just have to say there's no stockings, there's no barrier between the crinoline and the legs, as we can see here.
And it's very scratchy.
Very scratchy indeed. And
Look at that picture and I'm itching.
See that little boy, he gets to carry his rabbit. He gets to have the practical shoes, the little saddle shoes there. And the girls, look at them. They got the whole regalia. They got the hats, the gloves, the crinoline, the shoes that slipped. Everything was. You're bound to make a fool of yourself somehow. So yeah, that's our era right there. I think that's a good one. I like it. That's
I'll give you
lined up like a firing squad.
Yeah, I always call it day 32 of the hostage taking.
I'll give you one memorable Christmas little anecdote thing. My sister had these tights, like most girls wore tights. I'm probably about 4 or 5 years old, and I really wanted a pair of tights, So for Christmas that year, I opened my presents, and my mom's got me these brown, girls' tights. Wow, this is great. I got some tights, So I put them on, and I remember looking in the full-length mirror after I'd put them on, and it just didn't work. My bold legs, no, I wasn't meant to wear tights. It finally dawned on me. So I don't think ever again I had any real burning desire to wear a lot of women's clothes or anything after that.
Oh, you should have been in our bike club. This is, before they invented Lycra. Guys would wear tights under their shorts in the winter when it was cold.
That makes sense. That's like, remember Joe Namath? He used to apparently wear
or pantyhose.
Yeah, pantyhose under his uniform when it was winter and he was quarterback for the Jets. Yeah.
Yeah, they're breathable somewhat, and it's not quite like putting a plastic bag on, but it really is a good windbreak if you're going down a big
Yeah.
hill.
Uh-huh.
I had no
Wow,
idea about
interesting.
Joe Namath.
Oh,
Thanks
yeah.
for find out, and I didn't know about you, Stephen, the
I
tights.
know.
But you see, this just goes to prove the whole transgender thing, because honestly, if you put on the tights and you went, "Hey, this feels really good. This is who I really am," that would be a whole different reaction, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's not very common for guys to feel like that's a good idea. And you were only 4,
Yeah.
and you
But
were
he had
my
to
whole-
try it out, and he tried it out, and then decided, yeah, he figured out that didn't work.
Yeah, my whole life, I've never been like, I've really never been prone to like any kind of homophobia or anything. And that's why being a male model, it was like, I had no hangups about it at all. And the irony is that me, who I've never had any problem with any of that stuff, but now I'll sometimes get criticized for a comment I make or whatever, especially online. And it's like, me? Really? You're going to single out me as being a racist, homophobic guy? Wow.
Racist, homophobe, xenophobe, transphobe. I forget all the different ones they can tack
Yeah.
on there.
Well,
Yeah.
we've had a lot added this year. It's amazing. Well, the Nazi. Don't forget the Nazi. Come on. That's
That's
at the
right.
top of the list. Yeah, you're a Nazi for wearing those tights.
Right, yeah.
That's what Nazis do. So,
Oh, man.
it's quite amazing, and it's sad for the people that feel that way because they have no sense of ha-ha. They.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even that. I think that people get geared up. I think it comes from a place of powerlessness, and this is way they can get power, or they think they can get power.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Well,
by
yeah.
earning credibility, but by joining some club.
And shaming anyone that's it's the shame. Everyone's shamed if they don't share that opinion, right? Or if they're not getting in line with politically correctness. And I think about
Or even just calling them a name is all it takes. You just start name calling. Doesn't matter if it makes sense. Like somebody calling you a racist or whatever.
Yeah.
Racist, homophobe.
I just have
Well,
I want to interject there with the story about you being on the billboards and that sort of thing, because there was a time not that long ago when your fellow classmates would have said, "Well, look at that guy, he's totally gay." I mean, that would have been, and that was not that long ago. Because
queer.
Were you doing the
Queer?
what was
Isn't
it,
that queer with the term?
Was it Calvin Klein? Who were you? You were on a billboard somewhere, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. I did a lot of stuff. I did it mostly in England. I was 20 years old. I went to London, England, and I got in with this agency. I met Eileen Ford prior to that, and I was the shortest guy, in the city. But I think I was funny, and I think it was just a laugh for me. So they'd hire me, and I ended up doing like Vogue and Lomo Vogue, and then I did campaigns. I was telling my dentist this. I used to be the close-up toothpaste guy. Yeah, and that's before everyone had their teeth fixed, see? So I'm in the dentist, and my teeth they're okay, And it's like, wow, you know what? I remember a time when everyone in Hollywood or every model in the world didn't have their teeth fixed. Like, and I got chosen for the close-up toothpaste because my teeth were fairly white and they were straight, but I never had braces. And I just kind of luck of the draw, I had okay teeth, right? But now everyone's got fake teeth. So it's like, or everybody in that industry anyway. So yeah, I was telling the dentist and she obviously didn't believe me,
Well, I'm just referring back to the whole comment that you're making there now about being homophobic, because I remember a few of us that had been in the class with you. Somebody had seen the billboard somewhere, and you were, and that's what they said. They said, "Did you know that Stephen Shellen was an underpants model?" I just said, I did not know. I did not know that, but that was the talk of the town, and you just went from to the great heights from there. You after being on the billboard, but it was quite funny and it's funny to see how things have changed in your life.
Oh boy. Yeah, and the irony now is that I get along really great with I don't even want to qualify it as rednecks, but guys, I get along really great with them, you know, and I was always kind of I always got along good with guys, you know. And so when people used to call me, "Oh, you're gay," or worse, you know, I don't know. I thought it was kind of, I've never been that thin-skinned until I got targeted. But, you know, prior to that, it's like, you know, it didn't bother me. I thought it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting all the girls, so you call me whatever you want, you know.
Oh, by the way,
yeah.
yes, a couple of our schoolmates, Elizabeth, I won't give her last name, but Elizabeth wanted me to pass along a greeting to you because she's driving right now. She's not able to tune into the show, but she said her friend, and I'm trying to, you might remember Elizabeth's friend, and I wish I had it right in front of me here, but they had quite the crush on you, but she remembers going over to your place on Rockland. Yeah.
Why do they always tell you afterwards? Doesn't that just, you know, bug you? It's like you find out 20, 30, 40 years later, why didn't you tell me at the time you had a crush on me, you know?
Well, maybe you did. You know, some of us didn't have that experience, but, you know, when you become Mr. Hollywood, I suppose that's, although this was well before you were Mr. Hollywood. You were Mr. Soccer Player then. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I had to make that transition from being a gay model into being taken serious as an actor. And I think I overdid the taken serious as an actor because I ended up sort of, I would say, I guess, borrowed some rage from some fellow actors like Sean Penn type stuff and got in fights. And, you know, I was really trying to sort of rid myself of this kind of pansy male model thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I went a little overboard though.
Yeah. So in what way? How do you feel that you went overboard?
Well, I went up to Vancouver, for example, and I'm on a movie with Rod Steiger, and we go to this Japanese restaurant, and Rod Steiger was the guy that was nominated for an Academy Award. I think he won an Academy Award, and he was in On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando. He's one of those quintessential, real serious actor guys.
Wasn't he one of the guys in, what do you call it, Twilight Zone?
I don't think so.
He was in The Illustrated Man, I think, wasn't he?
Okay.
I don't know. This is the 50s, 60s. He was in a movie called The Pawnbroker, which is a black and white film, but I think that's maybe what he won the Academy Award for. Anyway, we go to the restaurant, and he's in this locked depression. He's depressed about everything, and everything he says sounds the same. So it's like, would you like a Coke? I haven't felt good in 20 years. So are you from around here? Like everything was the same. There was no fluctuation, like, you know. Anyway, he starts giving the restaurant hell because they didn't have a table for him and they didn't recognize him. Do you know who I am? You know. And so I started drinking sake, and then I went off to I'm ashamed to say, I went off to a strip club in Vancouver. I mean, strip clubs in Vancouver is as common as, like, you know, corner stores, I guess. I mean, they're everywhere in Vancouver, right? So off I went, and I saw a girl swinging around on a pole, and I thought, that looks like fun. I'm all alone. So, of course, I get up on stage and start taking my shirt off, and I'm swinging around on the pole. Well, I get thrown out by these big, lumbering, you know, bouncers, and I land in an alley, and there's a brick next to me. So I have this genius idea to go back in the bar with my brick. Well, they ripped the brick out of my hand, and I don't remember much else other than waking up in the hospital with like 36 stitches in my face and 18 inside my mouth. Wow. So the producers, so the next day I had to go on the set. My jeans are now brown from the caked blood, and I'm called into the producer's office, this kind of pompous English guy. But I mean, I was pretty ashamed of, you know, what I'd done, this stunt, you know. So he says to me, you know, what are we going to do? And I used my hand trying to show what kind of angle that they could shoot me from. And the problem is there was no angle because the face now has started, it's like Elephant Man. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. And now there's some yellow and some red and some purple. These great colors are all starting to show up too. So, I basically got written out of the movie. And I asked the producer if he'd ever consider working with me again. And he wouldn't even look at me. He just stared straight ahead because he was driving me back to Vancouver. And he just stared straight ahead and he said, "No, there'd be no chance of that."
All because of his strip club. Well, actually, all because of
your brick
about Rod Steiger. It's because of Rod Steiger. He ruined your life.
Guess. Well, people are asking you, why would you
Well, people
do
want to
something
blame
like
somebody,
that? I
Oh,
think
that's right.
what I did. I tried to blame Rod Steiger for my stupidity because everything he said being monotone. I was so depressed being in his company that I had to go out and create this major disaster in my face from being in his presence. But obviously he wasn't responsible. I was just an idiot. But that pole looked so inviting. I mean, have you ever seen those poles they have in strip clubs and the girl swings around on them?
Well, I'm sure Dr. Judy has. You've been in a lot of strip clubs, haven't you? Remember that last time you were in the strip club? Oh, man. It's not something that the women are kind of used to, except for my brother's club. He got, at a certain point, because the blues wasn't really... it wasn't a big thing in the 70s, and he was doing this live blues thing, and he decided that he would have some strippers in. So it was very awkward because I wanted to visit my brother, and I had to go into the club, and there's these women stripping down. Yeah, that's the only reason I went. Yeah.
This isn't the Anglican brother. No way.
No. I can't discount the fact that Stan might be an Anglican, but he was, his girlfriend owned Mothers in Victoria. And they had a wonderful blues club.
Okay, I remember. Yeah, okay, yeah. Ah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And they get acts from all over, right?
They got acts from all over. They had Charlie Musselwhite, Jim Burns. Oops. Hey, did you hear that?
Yeah, was that the dog?
That's the dog, yeah.
Hey, Dr. Judy, what are you doing for Christmas? Are you going to see family?
Yeah, I got my chickens.
Oh, yeah.
That's my family, and the 3 feline American dependents.
Okay, so that's it, right? That pretty much it?
Yeah, I might go see some old folks around that might need some visitors.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that always makes you. I think that's smart to do that.
Because they don't have anybody visiting them. That's not fun.
What? I know. I got a topic I'd like to bring up to you guys, and then I'll quit yakking because I really had nothing to say when I came on, and now I'm suddenly animated. But I've been thinking about nursing homes, and and then Kim and I, when we lived in Montreal, we lived in an apartment, like a big bunch of lofts downtown Montreal. And we'd walk our dog through the restaurant. And people here in Ontario, which is another province, or would be like a state, I guess, in the United States. Ontario is very different than Quebec in terms of laws, bylaws, things like that. You could never in a million years get away with walking a dog through a restaurant, 3 times a day. It just wouldn't happen in Ontario because of all these laws, right? But then Kim said, well, what's wrong with the dog? I mean, we all cook our food. The dogs are everywhere in our kitchens, the cats, everything. And it's like, yeah, you're right. Why are we so fussy about animals in restaurants? I mean, animals are all over the place at home, and we're not dying of disease, food poisoning or anything from our animals, right?
But the only thing I can see is like if it's a public place and there are people who are deathly allergic to dogs.
Yeah, I guess that's true, yeah.
They
never care.
Right.
But my point is this, the old people in the old homes, a lot of them, if they don't have children, or let's say for whatever reason, the children are too far away, they're all growing up, they don't have time for their mother or father, maybe they had a falling out, whatever. So there's a whole lot, it's a big population of elderly that don't have any family, and most of their friends have died, because we're going to go see someone tomorrow who was the boyfriend of Kim's mom, and he's now... just in a year, bang! It's like sliding down a slippery slope. He's just suddenly, he's old. He's now, really old. Memory, all that stuff gone, and it's weird to see him so frail because he was a guy up until like 5-6 years ago that was still playing hockey at like 75 years old, right?
Wow.
Anyway, but he's lucky because he's got sons and he wasn't, he didn't abuse his kids. Like they love him, and he loves them. So the sons are around, but we're going to go see him tomorrow. But I'm thinking where I'm going with this is, why can't elderly have, wouldn't it be great if elderly in these retirement homes or whatever, wouldn't it be great if they were allowed to have animals? And maybe it's an animal that maybe they'd have to make sure that that it's a kind of dog, like our dogs are Shih Tzus basically, and Shih Tzus, people with allergies can have Shih Tzus, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what if they had
same with little poodle things?
Yeah. So what if you had? I mean, why don't we start a bunch of retirement homes and have animals, and maybe there's 2 or 3 dogs for maybe there's 100 people in the retirement home, and there's 2 or 3 dogs that walk around, and the old people get to take care of these animals, and the animals, I guess, inadvertently take care of them, but they get to exchange love and caring, and I feel like old people should be allowed to have animals.
Oh yeah. For
and
sure.
I bet you a lot of them would live a lot longer because they'd have some joy in their life instead of just staring at a blank wall, from their bed.
Where my parents are, they allow that, dogs and cats. And
where your parents are?
Yeah, it's a retirement place in Northern Virginia.
Wow.
And they, there's people who go out and walk their dog, every so many hours or something, and it keeps them moving.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we have that in Canada that I know of.
We do.
We don't.
We've got the PATS program, PATS,
Oh.
Pets something therapy something. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I have a picture of my dog on the screen just because I'm a shameless self-promoter. But that's that's Jewel, and I'd be happy to take her into an old folks home because she would be, apart from what you hear in the background here, she's quite a decent guest sometimes if she's on a leash. But yeah, PATS is a good program.
And it really does mean a lot to have it's family.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like going out to see my chickens, they have smiles on their faces, like, "Ooh, what do you got for us? What do you got?" And they're all excited.
Yeah. Do chickens smile? I had
Yeah.
no idea.
It's the way they walk around and act. You know they're smiling inside. Mm-hmm. They're definitely not about to attack you. That's a different stance.
Well, yeah. I just didn't know with the beaks and everything. It seems like it would be hard
Oh,
to get a smile.
It's not just on the beak. It's the whole body that does it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a lot written about chicken smiles.
Yeah?
I'm surprised you missed that, Joani. Yeah, it's been very well documented.
I can only research so much. Chicken smiles is not on the list, but now I'm going to have to start doing that. That's a new resolution.
You ever been around a pissed off rooster, Judy?
Oh yeah,
They're brutal.
Yeah, well, I've had to get rid of one for that, and actually, I got rid of. I had a big rooster roundup earlier this week, and all the adolescent roosters went, as well as a big one, because he was beaten on my silky rooster. And the silky rooster would go hide in a nest and pretend he was a hen, and the thing would still come in and beat on him.
Oh, that's so sad. Oh,
and he's, silkies are small in this country, and poor Eddie was feeling picked on. He doesn't fight back. He'd run and hide. But he plays. He's got little big man syndrome, little man syndrome that tries to act big, but then when the other one turned on him, he'd run.
I think little big man syndrome is a whole different thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's little man syndrome. But he's you say what was it?
Is his name Eddie?
Yeah. Yeah. as an Edward Scissorhands, because when he was little, he'd hang his wings down. It looked like Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah.
He's very cute. That's why he got seniority, and the two were fighting, and then Ethel was beating him up. That's the rooster's name, Ethel.
Ethel.
Oh, that's great.
The neighbor thought it was a hen. He called it an Ethel, and so the name just stuck. But Ethel was getting bigger and nastier, and feeling, he was going to kill any one of those times. And I had a backpack on. He jumped up and kicked my backpack. He didn't know it was me. It was a thing in there that he thought was a threat. But I decided we're getting rid of all the other ones. The neighbor took them to a sale, and so I got rid of Ethel too. And I kept one of the adolescent boys. That one's Freddie. Furry Freddie. He's got a big fur face. He's got big old man sideburns, bushy sideburns, and a beard and a hairdo.
Oh, great. Where's he now?
He's in there. He's the only other one, but he hasn't started crowing yet. He's young.
Okay.
So Eddie has seniority, and Furry Freddie is just running around. He gets picked on by the Brahma hens. And the other ones, he's runs for cover all the time.
Hey, speaking of Edward Scissorhands, so after I get beat up, my face is now swelled way out. I get on the elevator at the hotel, and on comes, these kids were doing this series called Jump Street, and is the future Scissorhand guy, right? Johnny Depp. They were just like, whoa!
Oh, wow.
And then I ride the elevator another time, maybe the same day, and this guy that I was doing the movie with, Rod Steiger, he gets on, and in the same monotone, flat voice, he goes, "I'm so jealous of you. I used to be able to go out and get in fights when I was younger." Can you believe it?
That Rod, he was a downer, eh?
He was a downer for sure, yeah.
Rod Downer. Well,
he was jealous.
Well, it's cool that you met the actual Edward Scissorhands guy.
Yeah, they didn't
Johnny
have
Depp.
much to say. They were just kind of staring at me with their mouths hanging open. It was like, I don't think they'd ever seen anyone that beat up before. Oh, the guys that beat me up were Hell's Angel associates apparently, and all the cops, they all thought it was hilarious. And what these guys had done to this guy. And when I was in the hospital, I wasn't going to get stitches. I got off the table to leave. And in the hallway, I'm not kidding you, I couldn't make this up, coming towards me are the two guys that beat me up, but their hands are completely full of gauze. I guess they'd gone in and had to have their hands fixed from beating me up.
Small consolation, really, isn't it? But that would be a great meeting. Now, that's a great scene for a movie. I love scenes like that. They're just so perfect.
That's why I was thinking that when they saw you on the elevator and thought they had seen someone so beat up. Didn't they think that you just had makeup on?
No, it looked
they were the ones
pretty
that did
real.
It. They're the ones that
No, I'm talking about
it.
the people on the elevator.
Oh, the Jump Street guys. No, because we were all we weren't working. Yeah, no, they never. No, it was too real looking. How do you make your face swell out like that? Like that would have been. I don't know. I guess they could do it with makeup, but no, I think they probably heard about this idiot, that was doing this film and went out and got in this big fight.
And so lost his role because he got beat up.
Yeah. And my poor agent back in LA, my agent was like, tried to have a heart-to-heart with me, like, Steve, you can't be doing this.
It was like
I know, God.
Like the big star football players, in college football who get in barroom brawls and then get tossed off the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
except, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I just was thinking about those guys, the 21 Jump Street guys. They were pretty notorious themselves. They would go down to Lonsdale Quay, and apparently they did weird things like whipping out parts of their anatomy to mix drinks and that sort of thing. So they they weren't exactly the most, they weren't angels.
Good. Well, I hope I didn't contribute to that, but yeah, I've heard
Well, it's all because of Rod Steiger.
We can all blame Rod Steiger.
Everyone
we can blame
should.
Johnny
Depp should blame him.
Yeah, we can blame Johnny Depp's violence against women and his alcoholism on Rod Steiger. There you go.
Oh,
It's all
and I think
Rod's
we should bring it out before the election. Is there somebody going to be elected? Because we could bring this out. Maybe Johnny Depp will be running for office.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
That would be
my
weird.
I'm
But
sure that
God.
the human being is different than that, but he's got to have that as a side to him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about him. I just know he had a bar he had the bar, the Viper Room. And that one kid was I think he was a good kid, messed up family, but that River Phoenix kid.
oh yeah, and that's
That was
where he
sad.
died. That he died outside.
Yeah,
the
that
Viper,
was
right?
that was very odd. Yeah.
But you talking about somebody really died?
Yeah,
River
River
Phoenix.
Phoenix died right out on the sidewalk in front of the Viper Room, the club that Johnny Depp owned.
Why did he die there?
Because apparently he'd taken a drink, and I think he did have a tendency to, do drugs. And he'd taken a drink of someone else's drink, and it was I've never even heard of this, but apparently it was loaded up with this cocktail of alcohol and drugs all in one glass. And he took a great big gulp of it or whatever.
Oh,
And
it
then,
was supposed to be sipped and handed around or something?
I guess so. And he pretty much, he OD'd, he died. And it was just so sad because he was did you ever, what's that fabulous film, Joni, where they're all little, Stand By Me.
Stand By Me. That's where he got his big break, I guess.
Oh, he was so great in that,
He was a great actor.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. And that's.
And
Did you feel like there was something behind that? Because a lot of people
I don't know.
really wonder
I know.
about that. He was becoming more and more outspoken. And
Yeah,
about that.
I know. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say, like Dr. Judy always goes, look at the evidence, and there really isn't any, I mean, if it was anything nefarious, it was certainly, covered up and planned very well. But it could have just been that he OD'd too,
Yeah.
I knew
Maybe it was a spiked drink for 6 people, and they're all taking a sip and hand around the table, and he just gulped the whole thing down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that is kind of what happened. And then his girlfriend, I knew his girlfriend, what was her name? Samantha Mathos or Matt. Anyway, she was just crestfallen from the whole thing, losing him like that.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Hollywood is something else, man. Wow, not being a part of it and looking in from the outside. Wow. Jeez.
Well, we need to talk about this because last time we spoke, I think the Harvey situation had just come out. So maybe we can sort of pick up that thread since we're talking about
I think more
Hollywood.
than a Hollywood thing. I think it's a political thing, but that's just me.
Well, I think it's both. I think that they
Right.
run these, it happens in D.C. and it happens in Hollywood. And then you have to ask yourself, well, what kind of people gravitate towards D.C. and what kind of people gravitate towards Hollywood? And I'm just venturing a guess, but
Same.
it's the same. It's someone that needs to, someone that comes from, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they got something to prove and they were beat on in high school or they weren't popular or whatever. Like they want to make a name for themselves. So where can I get power? Maybe they're, sociopaths and they want power. Well, DC and Hollywood are top of the list, right? And then, once they get out there, see, I never saw that sick part of the industry. I think I honestly think they kind of just left me alone. I don't know. I never, like people always say, well, did you go to any of those parties, and I'm like, no, I wasn't invited. I didn't go to those.
But if you were acting like that was your I don't know, what you like to do, that might be different.
Yeah.
I think there are people that, like in high school, there are people that like to do parties, or even college. There's people that like to do parties and other people don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just know that, I'd known about a lot of, like Harvey Weinstein I'd worked with. So, I've met Harvey and Bob. Harvey, everyone pretty much knew he was gross. I mean, he's like central casting. Okay, we're going to cast this role, and we want kind of a very unattractive, overweight, loudmouth, womanizing creep. Oh, I got a guy for that. He's perfect. Harvey Weinstein. It's like central casting. There's Harvey Weinstein. Perfect. As far as Kevin Spacey and other things, yeah, I'd heard little things here and there. I do know that the call girls, because of my situation with my ex-wife and finding out what she was up to, I knew girls that worked for Heidi Fleiss. I spoke to them. There is a black book, absolutely. A lot of, I've realized something too, when you get to be that kind of famous, and that's why I'm so glad it didn't happen to me, because I think it's this weird kind of aphrodisiac where you're just lustful and you're never satisfied. And so then you look for things that are more and more, out there, right? I mean, I could never in a zillion years imagine myself ever, I've never, a child, forget about it. But call girls are used like crazy. The agents used to go see call girls in their lunch hour, and that was really common. I mean, everyone knew about the call girls in Hollywood go together like, tea and biscuits. I mean, it's, but if they're filming
I understand
guys,
that the deal like with Bill Clinton, it was that, okay, I get away with this. Now what else can I get away with? And
right.
It sort of becomes like bungee jumping,
Yeah.
it's the thrill of getting away with it and pushing it to the limit.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, but you gotta, at some point, you would think that people would have to take some kind of, what's the word? They'd have to look at themselves and their actions and really start to question, is this, unless they are truly sociopaths and they don't have any sense of right and wrong. I mean, like me going in the bar and getting in that fight, there was no doubt that I screwed up and it was an idiot move, I mean, when you do things that are wrong, it's like, if you've ever been in a relationship and you had an affair outside of that relationship, it's wrong. You can justify why you did it, but it's still, don't be with that person if you're going to cheat on them. Like, just don't be with them then. Like there's no way to rationalize that's okay, especially when you're hurting someone that actually cares about you. So, we have to you have to be able to get outside yourself and look at what you're doing, your actions, and be able to.
Yes, what I'm saying, like with Clinton, I don't think it was about sex or about an affair so much as it was about power of what they can get away with.
Yeah, I think
it's about sex.
Well, but also what they can get away with. Like you keep working up and you get a thrill out of whatever. That's. It seems like that would be the case of a lot. That there's something about like some people who have affairs. It's the thrill of, I'm not speaking from experience. Yeah, the thrill of seeing if you can get away with it.
Yeah, that's the drug. And I think with Harvey Weinstein and others like him, I mean, there's Robert Lantos up in Canada. I don't know why no girls have come forth yet. And I've spoken to girls that have told me. So I know, I'm
He's
I'm
not
positive.
running for office. That's
that's right.
Weinstein wasn't either, right? Weinstein's thing, though, was I think, unattractive guy. And it was, I think Dr. Judy's right, certainly about someone like a Weinstein, because it's really bullying. And it's like, these girls were frightened of him. And it's like he's got off on the power of bullying these girls into having sex with them, Mm-hmm. I really, because otherwise, why don't you just hire a call girl? If you're only after sex, hire a girl. You don't have to bully some ingenue, some young, 18, 19-year-old actress. What's the point of bullying her like that? Unless you get off on the power. And that's really, I think, in his case, what it was. Walking around naked and, you know what I mean? Like, ugh, can you imagine? And then all the girls that did it.
Sadly, yes.
And thought they could get away with it and got a career. And it's like, oh my God, now people are questioning, well, why didn't anyone say anything? Because it's Harvey Weinstein. Oh no, we'll just look the other way. And that's really what's diabolical about Hollywood, about my situation as well. It's like, wow, it's never been more crystal clear that it's this apathy. It's not the bad people that have done things personally to you, but it's the ones that are too weak and the ones around that know what's going on, and yet they keep their mouths shut because they don't want to lose their standing. They don't want to put themselves out there. So they're quiet about it. And they're usually pretty good, average, okay people. And yet their silence is deafening. And that's really what's coming to light, because I worked with Harvey 25, 26 years ago. And we pretty much knew then what kind of person he was. So, can you imagine, over the course of almost 30 years, how much of this stuff he did and pulled on people? Mm-hmm. Incredible.
I think there's similar stuff in other professions too.
Yeah, you're right.
I was going to just say that this is common, to everything.
Yeah.
Like not just sex, but other types of abuse, like for example, the medical industry. If one doctor screws up, the next one's going to cover for him, and then the next one covers for them, so the patient doesn't get treated.
Or the patient dies.
Yeah, the patient dies, so it's at the patient's expense to save the other doctors.
Right, that's disgusting. Yeah, I was going to say too, corporate America, corporate Canada, there's this same hierarchy and there's this same stuff going on in those offices as well. So it's not just limited to Hollywood, but the fame game, because I wasn't famous, but I was, around famous people. I was in some big movies. So, I experienced a bit of that, and it's this aphrodisiac, and I don't know, I've never read anything about it. Maybe there is something that addresses it, but it's this insatiable sort of
power.
Yeah. And it transcends just having sex. It's like the appetite for destruction kind of thing. It's like, it makes you feel that like that. And,
that's what I've understood. It's a drug. And I guess in a way, like, watching roosters, the more powerful they are, the more powerful they become. They feed on it.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's a good analogy. Look, we got back to the roosters. That's perfect.
It's always about the roosters. We're always going to get back to the roosters. The roosters are a different thing. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I was listening to some headlines with Jay Leno. I just kind of got sucked in. You know how when you're on YouTube and they'll suggest something and you kind of get really sidetracked? Well, yeah. It was really interesting to listen to because a lot of these were from the 90s, and the number of times that Bill Clinton was mentioned as a sexual predator, ha ha ha. But the jokes and the headlines, I mean, these were out of the paper. These were things that people sent in. It's unbelievable. And so, in light of what we're talking about now, this year, all the politicians, they pale by comparison to what everybody seemed to know about Bill Clinton at that time. It's
like George Bush Sr., who was in a wheelchair, and to get a picture taken with somebody, had their arm around him or something, and the person didn't like where his hand was. And thought it was sexual in nature and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, this is real stuff, though. I mean, I'm talking about Bill Clinton was getting away with being an
that's right. I'm saying
pig.
The contrast is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. Yeah, that's sort of what really struck me about these, the jokes that were going around during his presidency, and also about Hillary. She's a crook, and she's going to go and have someone killed, or it's like they're just laughing about it. But it's not as though people didn't know. So it's the same thing with Harvey. Mm-hmm. People have known for decades about what he's done. Yeah. And all of a sudden, one person comes forward, and then all these other people come forward, and it's like your situation, Stephen, because you were considered to be just a goof, gee, he must be going absolutely nuts because 20 years ago, talking about being a targeted person was, the guy's paranoid.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's like a card somebody plays, and they hold that card until it's most advantageous to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got to add one more thing too, though, Joni, to that is that the woman that came forth, I don't remember which one about Harvey, she was heard. How many other women or girls
That's right.
made an attempt to come forth, but they weren't
Exactly.
powerful? Their agents didn't back them up. How
It,
many,
it,
you know?
that what I'm saying is that I think they do come forward, but it wasn't advantageous to play that card at that point. Somebody else makes a decision on when it's a good time to play that card, and then it all comes out.
Right, and that's why the theory that, well, it was someone else that was after Harvey. There was someone big, a power player, that for whatever reason, maybe he just pissed off the wrong person finally, but there was some other reason that Harvey took the fall.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because Hollywood knew about Harvey. Hollywood knew about Kevin Spacey. Hollywood knew about all this stuff, you know?
Well,
Or yeah, a lot of it.
that's what I look back at this year, and all of a sudden there's this flood of people to the point where we're just going, don't want to hear anymore. And that's the other part, because now it sort of discredited anybody that might actually come forward with a real situation, because we've flooded the market. So I wonder how much of it is that too, that we're trying to get people so overloaded and saturated that they're not even listening anymore for when the real stuff comes out.
Good point. And child abuse comes out. Yeah. You know, it's a case in point is this guy, Paul Haggis, who made up an innocuous, but, you know, destroyed my career. And anyone, I mean, you know, wiped out like zero money, right? Since Paul Haggis spread an innocuous, you know, vicious rumor that I had shoved his niece. Well, I never shoved his niece. And they begged me to come to the party at the Toronto Film Festival for Crash, which is the movie he went on to win the Academy Award for. But he made up this lie about me. Well, he's now being charged with rape. And so everybody, I mean, not just majority, I'm saying everyone is defending Paul Haggis and saying that it's science, because he used to be in Scientology and he left. So they're all assuming that it's not true and that it's Scientology going after Haggis. Well, I don't know whether it's true or not that he raped this girl. But what I do know is that he's a prick and he's a liar and he did it to me and he's ripped off other people and stolen their material and stuff. So there's an interesting dynamic there, because you're right. The danger is girls come out and say they were, you know, molested or abused or raped. And then now everyone's getting conditioned to go, oh, here comes another one. And the sad,
Yawn. Yeah.
yeah, and the sad thing is, I want the girls that were abused or raped, I want them to have their day. But you know, the lying accusations that are false, it's just wrecking everything. So it's like really it's shifting sand right now. You know, it's really I don't know what the end game play on this one is, but it's kind of weird. And when the Paul Haggis thing came out, yeah, I guess I was a little gleeful and yeah, they're going to get him. But, you know, there's another part of me, again, where I stand outside myself and I try to be objective and I say, look, we don't know, and I certainly don't know if he did rape that girl that's a publicist. I don't know, you know? No one else has come forth. She's not in Scientology, yeah. So I don't know what her motive is.
Documentation is really important, and they ought to go back to, if you don't, if you're bringing up something from X number of years ago, maybe there should be a statute of limitations, so you can't, memories change over time. But if it's soon after the event, but also document it. At least quietly file a police report, not press charges, police report, or in the diary, or But when somebody hasn't told anyone, and then X number of years later brings something up, for me that doesn't hold much value.
Yeah, or a hospital visit, right? I mean, make sure you got all those records. If a girl had to go to the hospital, and for whatever, and that's documented. And you're right. Go to the police, file a report. Maybe don't bring charges then and there.
Yeah,
but at least it's on record.
Right, with a time and date stamp on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that one girl that did you hear the tape of Harvey with the girl in the hotel
where he was having a shower
when he was trying to get her in his room?
I think I did hear that one. Yeah.
Oh, it is hard to listen to. My God, it's like, you know,
You're embarrassing me.
yeah, yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Oh my God. Thank God she got wired and had that conversation.
Well,
Oh
I think
man.
that's the new documentation, as far as I can see, because it's something like Lindsay Peters, or sorry, I always wanted to say Peterson, Lindsay Shepherd, who, a whole different subject, but who
Yeah.
went in with her laptop and just happened to have things going so that she was recording the conversation. And it's gotten to that point in life where we have to have a recording of everything. We have to have everything on tape in order to get anybody to really believe us. And it's sad because I think the whole world is going that way. We can't believe people. We can't trust them. And I think that's part of what's happening now. It's a breakdown of trust, and it's a slow
I think you just got it. I
dissecting
think,
of
yeah,
how
I
we
think
don't
you hit the
trust
nail on the
anybody.
head. You hit the
How-
nail on the head. So nothing is real unless it's recorded. If it's not recorded, it's not believable.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, even in that case, I had my son, my 4-year-old son, on tape. I made about 300 copies of it. He talks about a man hitting Mummy, and he talks about a man threatening to hurt him if he talks to his daddy. I had all that recorded. I made almost 300 copies of it. I've had it stolen out of every place you can imagine, out of cars, apartments, 3 safety boxes. So it's, and then their card to play against me was, oh, look, he's insane. He's insane. Well, my being insane, how does this change the recording? It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But
Bingo.
because she was involved with powerful people, even that recording didn't really hold any water for me. And then I was also accused of coaching my son to tell me what he told me on tape. And that's when I really, yeah.
Can you? It seems like Dr. Judy doesn't really know most of that story. Can you kind of give a synopsis for people that are listening, and also for Dr. Judy, who I was trying to explain things in a kind of an overview.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, I know it's a big story, but you're used to synopsizing it, please. So can you do that?
Okay, working on a TV show in Canada that I really didn't like. I probably pissed off some people. I met a girl who begged to come and see me in Canada. This is a girl I met in Paris. She worked at the reception. I found her in my room one day with her blouse undone. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Anyway, she comes to see me in Canada. I'm an idiot. I admit it. I said, you can't come right now. And she goes, oh, I have no friends. I have nowhere to go. I said, okay, when's your flight coming in? Tomorrow. I pick her up. She stays a month. She goes back to France. I'm thinking, that's it. Get a call. Christmas Eve, I think. Her dad's going to give us $5,000. Why's your father giving us $5,000? Oh, you don't remember. You were drunk. You say if I'm pregnant, you marry me. I marry her. 5 years later, I find out she's a prostitute at a trailer at a gas station next to my farm. But she also, I believe, is working out of a hotel downtown Toronto, which was across the street from where all the politicians would stay. And they were caught with their pants down using their, what do you call it, the money they, using their expense account or whatever from the government to go visit the hotel. And how do I know they had call girls in that hotel? Because I met them and talked to them. Everyone knew at the Sutton Place they had hookers, and they were involved in the Toronto Film Festival was held at that hotel. Everyone knew. I'm telling you, call girls entertainment. It's like, boy, it's the glove that fits the hand. 5 years later, I find out, because I'm stupid, that she's a prostitute. She admits to it. I'm concerned about my kids because they were present. So I go to the police. I go to Children's Aid. I suddenly start getting followed. I start getting death threats.
Are the kids from her or from something else?
They're from her.
Okay.
And they were 3 and 4. My children are taken, even though I'd filed with a MP. It's like a senator, I guess, in the States. I'd filed with an MP's wife who was an attorney to not let my children be taken out of Canada. I'd moved the family from LA back to my farm in Canada because I wanted my kids, irony of ironies, to have a normal life. So I get this, this lawyer. She's supposed to file the paperwork so my children can't be taken out of the country. Oh, she filed it in the wrong county. My children are taken. Their first language is English. They lose all English within a month or two when I try to call them and find them. They don't speak English anymore, even though it's the only language we ever spoke at home.
What do they speak?
They speak French. They speak English now, and she was an English teacher, she claimed. Well, anyway, I was married to a girl who was sexually abused as a child, who has dissociative identity disorder from the abuse, and she was working as a call girl and God knows what else. And that started me on this kind of amazing journey, not altogether fun, of being tracked, followed, death threatened, harassed, gaslit, and everything in between for the past almost 23 years. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And I guess my ex-wife, what you could say is she was used in what they now call brownstone operations. She had her own set of tools, and she was an expert on anything to do with electronics or anything like that. So the likelihood of her having an apartment above the Sutton Place Hotel and filming herself with politicians, yeah, it's a pretty good bet. Plus, in France, when I went back and talked to the hotel management, there was a night manager that told me, because that's where all the, it was in the middle of all the Arabic embassies, and it was known in the hotel that she slept with guests, primarily rich diplomats and people from places like Saudi Arabia, and that she was moonlighting as a call girl out of the hotel that she worked in. So, that's basically the story. And I was starting Lionsgate at the time, and my partner in Lionsgate said, keep your mouth shut about your kids or you're dead. And that was it. Is that quick?
That's pretty quick. I think
Yeah.
you're used to this. The Lionsgate tie-in is interesting because there's also a Frank Dustra tie-in.
That's right.
And he's back in the news now. I keep just wanting you to get the whole story out there. So you haven't heard this, Dr. Judy, have you?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So what about the Frank Dustra? What is it? What was the lawyer's name?
Lawyer's name's John Hardy, and he was an insurance attorney at a big, powerful law firm in Vancouver, Canada. And he specialized in primarily like mining companies, logging companies, and that stuff. And his father, apparently, according to him and friends of his, and he admitted to this to me, his father ran CSIS, which at the time I didn't even know what it was. And now it's well known that CSIS is basically Canada's version of the CIA. So I meet with this guy. He says, we never had a company. His father can't help me. He's spent his whole life killing people, and to keep my mouth shut about my kids or I'm dead. And I don't know how the Frank Dustra thing weaves in, but and it's the same name. That's what kills me. I guess they were so convinced I was going to kill myself from being heartbroken and being harassed. I think they were trying to drive me to suicide, and they were kind of shocked that I managed to sleep outside off and on for 3 years and be homeless and, lose everything. But I kept marching on. So
you lost your place in L.A. as well. You had quite a nice place there, as I understand.
Well, no, I'd sold the house earlier because I wanted the kids to have a normal. That's a killer, huh?
Oh, right. That was before you came up to Ontario. So
yeah,
mm-hmm.
That's right. So I wanted my kids to have a normal life, so I'd sold the nice house under the Hollywood sign. But you know what? Maybe in a weird way, I was kind of being looked out for by, God above or something. I don't know. Like now I see what's going on in Hollywood. So, wow, I got taken right out of that equation. And maybe in a strange way, I mean, being broke and financially destitute from time to time, that's not any fun. But I'm certainly not... I'm not a dirtbag in Hollywood, that's for sure. And Frank Dustra, he's part of the whole Uranium One deal. He's the largest contributor to the Clinton Foundation, which I think they're finally seriously going to look into. Imagine you go to Haiti and this is to me atrocious, Dr. Judy. You're a charity and you raise millions, almost billions of dollars. And you have this charity where you're in the business to help children. And then it comes out, and that's why that doctor was recently killed, I believe. It comes out that it's a front. You're actually involved in, now is it 100% positive? It sure looks like that, but I can't say it's 100%. But that Clinton Foundation, I believe anyway, was involved in child trafficking. But, what's really obvious, look at the evidence. It's known it's absolutely known that they didn't do almost anything for those children that they were raising money to help. And to me, that's just atrocious that you say you're in the business of helping people with your charity, and all you're doing is pocketing the money and worse. So that's what Juster was involved with. Him and Bill Clinton are best buddies. He helped him get the deal out of Kazakhstan because Juster bought the uranium in Kazakhstan. And then they formed another company that Juster's friend owned. And that company bought Juster's uranium company. But Juster was still in the mix because he had a large share in that company. And then Secretary Clinton, she then okayed the sale of uranium 1 to the Russians. So America sold the uranium to the Russians.
It seems like to me, or at least as the stories go, we don't have any idea what the reality is, but as far as the stories go, it seems like, we used to have people in charge. And then when we were little, you know how playing in the sandbox, people play make-believe? That mentality just moved into the White House. Yeah. In the past 20 years or so. And it's just all like everybody's, playing grown up without knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Or without anybody else caring.
But right. I mean, and I know from firsthand experience, it's like I wasn't being tracked and followed and gaslit and threatened because I was the criminal. No, in fact, I was out of concern for my kids, and I was trying to expose any criminality. But the irony is that I'm treated like the criminal. And when I look at things like what's being done, and it is changing, but, agencies in the States and even the FBI to a certain extent, it's like they're acting like the mafia, man. They're like the soldiers for these criminals. And it's like, my God, and there's so many people now online, and these are people that aren't even into conspiracies, but they're like, nope, never going to go complain to the police. Nope, not dealing with it. They're afraid to go to the police because they're afraid of what could happen, And so when we were kids, something goes on, hey, I'm calling the cops. Well, now people are afraid to call the cops, right? It's like, no, don't call the cops, then you'll really have trouble. Or don't call children's services. You'll get your kids taken away. Like, don't go for help because they're part of the criminal cabal, It'll all backfire. And there's so much that's come out in Canada and the U.S. lately about good parents that have had their children taken away. There's a girl traveling around America making a documentary about that very thing, which is, kids from good families who were taken and given to like this abusive, what do you call it? I don't know, foster home.
Mm-hmm. And they get bounced from one foster home to another, and then the kid gets messed up.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
how many
were
kids
messed up already? Like usually those kids that go into the foster homes have had a reason before they go into the foster homes to be already pretty screwed up. And then
we're talking about is a kid in a decent home who somebody gets mad and calls child services on them, and they immediately take the kid away, and then the kid gets corrupted.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about Stephen's particular story because there was already some stuff going on in their life. But yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm.
There's different reasons, but just that being one of them, that it's not good for a kid to get pulled out from under their parents because the kid needs to learn that the parents protect them.
Yeah, that's right. And that was the whole thing with the Native community in Canada with the residential schooling, which is, these Native kids, they've got their aunts, uncles, mom, dad, whatever, family.
They lose that.
And it's ripped away from them, and they're thrown in a residential school. And I think something as high as 50% of those kids never came home alive. Wow. Right. Like, that's insane. And you wonder why, then that begs the question, do Native people drink because their DNA, they're prone to alcoholism? Or do they drink because it's like 4 generations of abuse? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know which shoe fits in
Or,
that
but
instance.
also you put somebody on a reservation. I mean that as well as welfare housing.
Same
In
thing.
the
Yeah,
U.S. And I call that reservations, where there's no hope of getting out of it,
yeah,
and like they're stuck with what to do. I mean, I've seen those cases where they take a cut and pay to get out of there. They consider it pay their check, but it becomes a way of life that was created, and it's not so much their fault. It was they just didn't realize what they're getting swept into, and they're stuck once they get there. It's like a Hotel California.
Yeah, you can check in, but you ain't
You can
leaving.
never leave.
You can never leave.
You can check out, but you can never leave. Right.
Uh-huh.
Like
Hotel
like
California.
yeah, like a 17-year-old pregnant kid who has an adolescent rebellion, and I'm going to go show mom I'm going to get pregnant, and then mother, wants him to, to go away. It doesn't, like what would the neighbors think, kind of thing, and then the kid learns that they can get welfare housing. So now their adolescent rebellion can really get fueled up. They don't need mom. They can go live on their own. So they're stuck in this welfare housing with their kid, and how can they ever get out of that? They didn't even finish high school,
Right.
and they have
Yeah,
no
it's a
idea.
trap. Yeah, you're right. It's a trap. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
know. It's a
Oh,
trap, man.
it's happened so much. I remember there's this kid that came to my house, and I actually knew his parents. And he came and he said, "Oh yeah, his parents were being abusive and all the rest of it, and wanted to stay at my place." And he was a friend of my son's, and I said, "Okay, that's great, but I want your mom and dad to know where you are, because I'm concerned that they know you're safe." And he refused to call them, and he went to another person's place that decided that he needed to be taken away and go on welfare. So in the end, this kid who's 16 ends up living on his own, having welfare given to him, and his parents were accused. It's the same kind of thing as what we're talking about with these politicians. They're accused of abuse. They never have an opportunity to talk about it or to deal with their kids. And we're talking about a 16-year-old kid who, what's the thing they want the most? Go live on their own, be able to do what they want
Yeah.
to do. And it was just insane. And the only rule I had was, yes, you can stay here, but you need to call your parents and just let them know you're safe. Nope, not doing it. And the system supported that. It
Wow.
was insane.
Did
Yeah.
you ever find out what happened to that
Oh,
boy?
I still know him. He's an adult, and I know his parents as well. And it was a stage. It was a. I had the same thing happen with my kids, where somebody would come along and they would say, they would take a 16-year-old seriously. In the old days, we would have said, "Go back to your parents," or "I'll
Yeah.
go with you if you're having a problem," or you get the minister to come in, or you get some help
Yeah.
with getting the family back together. And my first job, when I was actually, I hadn't finished school, but I went to work in child welfare, and it was insane. The whole thing was insane. That was 1974, and
Wow.
yeah, so I got a chance to see how the whole system worked on the inside, and it was really despicable. I,
Wow.
but so
It sounds good for I think it's originally meant well, but then there's no way it can work well if it empowers a kid to leave home and who's not responsible.
Well, when you got a bunch of enabling parents around, or step parents, or friends, or people that have an investment in breaking up the family, which
Right.
unfortunately, it's sad to know, but in this case, it was a step parent. There's people with agendas who are trying to make you
Yeah.
look bad. And you know that, Stephen. So I can relate to Stephen on just a very, very small level, but it continues on to this day, the repercussions of what happened when my kids were younger. Because you might have a different way of parenting. That doesn't mean everybody has to agree with you. It just means that unless you're abusing those kids, which now, of course, people would say you are abusing them because you're not letting them do exactly what they want to do. And,
Ah, ah.
it's just this breakdown of the family. in these
I
very,
know.
very tangible ways. And it's really, the despicable is the only word that I can come up with. And you've got parents that will actually enable this. They turn against one another, and they get other people involved in the whole situation. Instead of just saying, you know what, I honor your job as a mom or a dad. That's the idea. Honor your parents. You may not I didn't like everything my parents did either, but
None of us did.
no,
Right.
you
That's
support.
normal.
Come in if you don't like the parenting, if you don't like the way that they're parenting, come in and help. Don't sit there criticizing from outside, but just say, seems like you're kind of overwhelmed. Can I come in and help you out?
Oh, you're talking about somebody else. Yeah.
I'm talking about somebody from the outside. I don't care who that is. It could be a friend or foe. But if that person, all they do is stand on the outside and say, oh, look, your mom, your dad, they're abusive. That isn't helping the situation. It's
That's
making
destructive.
that kid be disrespectful and become part of the system, instead of seeing another adult come in and learning from that adult how to resolve the situation and say, look, you're still a kid. You're still under your parents' roof. You may not agree with some of the things. Let's work on this together. Make sure that the kid isn't being abused. There's a concern there. But if you see that these are decent parents, or a decent parent that is being, I guess, just criticized for doing something that might actually be pretty normal in our era, now it's considered.
And that's the value of like Little League stuff or other things. Like, I know that's what really helped me was this old fellow. I'll go ahead and say his name, Henry Meyer. He didn't have kids of his own, but he saw would-be juvenile delinquents and kind of took them under his wing and encouraged them to ride bikes. And I think I told you about how meeting on the street corner at 5:30 or 6 in the morning to go on a ride. But it was an outlet. There was somebody else who cared for us.
Yeah. Well, that brings in that. Yeah. Go ahead.
And he taught us discipline and camaraderie. So I had sort of an extended family, the other bike riders.
Yeah. Well, that gets into this whole notion of communities, and maybe that's one good thing that's coming out of all this is that maybe people don't trust the cops like they used to, and we found out that a lot of those places aren't very good. But hopefully, maybe people are starting to realize, wow, we've got to do our own. We got to take care of this ourselves, and I mean, in our communities, right? And that's why going out, like I'm gonna go see George tomorrow. And you're going to see some elderly people tomorrow. I mean, or people that need you. I mean, that's really healthy. That's good, man. Like, get back to communities. I see that as a positive change.
Exactly. I think what's going to happen is people are going to get really sick of the divide and conquer idea. And I think it's already happening, because we see the contrast between somebody, and I won't mention his name, but somebody in leadership who's basically saying, yeah, we can actually build something. And then you've got all these other people trying to tear it down. And I think people are getting really tired of that concept.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Because anybody can tear down anything, whether it's family or whether it's Dr. Judy's book or whether it's, that we're talking about the same thing. There's somebody in the chat who is saying, Dr. Wood is really great. And I was, and I just want to pass that along to you, and talking about the weapons and about the energy. But I think what we're talking about here is exactly the same thing for all of us. And basically it's people that have the gumption to speak the truth and to see things as they are. And you're always going to start getting pulled down by those that are on the outside, trying to discredit you.
Yeah. Some people get off on that more than others.
That's true.
And don't hang around them.
Yeah, and that's why I'm, even with the Paul Haggis thing, I'm careful to say, I don't know. I mean, there's a part of me that's gleeful, but there's another part of me that says, no, you don't know for sure, so don't stick your nose into something that you don't know for sure.
Yeah, and know it is that you know, and don't, just for another ulterior motive or agenda, don't say yes.
Yeah, I'm not going to go along with, oh, he absolutely did, because that's not fair. And that's just, although I'd like to see him fall, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be malicious. The other thing is also when we're talking about community and exchanging and getting outside help and stuff, it's like, I think people, younger people especially, because we're the 357 club, but younger people, it's like, if you don't agree with me, then you're my enemy. And it's like, well, wait a second. Like, all through time, um, people have had discussions, and people have had heated discussions. Whether it's considered arguing, but there's a debate that goes on, and I
If
feel
it's a
like,
matter of opinion, yeah, if something's a matter of opinion, and imagine if somebody always agreed with you all the time. That's weird. That's no
awful.
fun.
Yeah, if Kim agreed with everything I said, we wouldn't have lasted. Like, we argue or we debate, let's say, because we don't get like hot usually, but we'll debate stuff almost every single night, and I think that's healthy. And I don't want everyone around me just to agree with me. Like, all three of us, we've got differing opinions about certain things. That's okay. You don't have to be afraid of someone or push them away just because they have a different opinion than you. And I've never seen it more polarized than since this recent U.S. election. And it's not even, for me, it's not even about Trump.
Well, even
Clinton.
before
It's like,
even before the election, it's like somebody's stoking, division.
yeah, and when your book came out, and I saw the amount of heat and finger pointing that you got, and calling you a witch and stuff. I'm talking to Dr. Judy Wood. That kind of finger pointing. But I'm sensitized to like that finger pointing, because they did it to me. And it's like, when you break it all down, what did Dr. Judy Wood do except write a book, and in that book reference different evidence? And you know what I
That's
mean?
it.
Like, where's the witch? You're a witch. And it's this ad hominem,
Thou
solid
shalt not show
playbook.
evidence.
Yeah. It's like, and the same thing with my tape of my son. No one paid any attention to the actual tape. No authorities anyway. But just this constant finger pointing and yelling and screaming. And it's like, God, wow. We're not allowed to debate. We're not allowed to
And then it's a whole
discuss.
organization designed to tell people whatever she says, it's evil, it's awful, and people actually start believing it.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the Bushes said that in I can't remember what it was in, but if you say a lie enough times and you say it over and over and over again, the public will believe it.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm hoping that that's shifted or changed a bit too, Joani. I'm hoping that as a society we've realized, wait a second, all
Truth
this
is
yelling
not
and
born in
screaming.
clubs.
Well, I have to say that I think that it's something that is endemic. It's something to do with human nature. And the reason that I mentioned that about the parenting thing is because it's on a much simpler level. And I think it's been going on forever. That there's people that are outside, they're either jealous or they have some other agenda that they're trying to fulfill.
She lets her kids walk around with dirty shirts on.
Well, we're talking about something that's a little, like that's in our era, but now it's really sinister. They talk about abuse in a way that is, it's very cavalier. It's like, oh, yeah, they're abusive. And they use that word, they bandy it about, and it's enough
Right.
to get children taken out of homes. And it's very
Right.
serious stuff. And then children grow up with the idea that they were abused or they came from a
Right.
broken home. And we start using all of this language that's very,
Right.
it's coded language, but it's also very, it's warlike in the way that it breaks things down, rather than in our day. If I was walking around and I was skipping out of school, another person's mom, certainly not mine because she didn't drive, might drive by and say, "Aren't you supposed to be in school?" There is a sense that they were encouraging community, they are encouraging good behavior. Instead of, yeah, you guys just go out, I hate the school system. That's what we get now because everybody's trying to be buddy-buddy. Sorry, maybe
Yeah.
that's not a good analogy, but I'm just thinking about this whole thing of adults are now looking like the children. They're looking like they're afraid to be adults. They're afraid to be leaders.
Exactly. That's what I meant about like, when we played make believe when we were little. Now those are, should be adult age, but they're still playing make believe.
Exactly.
Yeah, in the
Exactly.
sandbox.
Hey,
Yeah.
I heard a really good quote last night. I'm always listening to different shows just while I'm doing other things. And apparently, one of the senators, no, it was the mayor. Like, anyway, somebody from California. She was a leader of some sort. I'm pretty sure she's a senator, but she said, Sacramento, I think it is, that she's the leader in that. And she says, we're still trying to figure out who we are who we're going to be when we grow up. And this person said that city's been there for 110 years. And that's the kind of rhetoric, because they haven't quite got it straightened with their tax system. And, I know, they were criticizing Trump's tax thing. And I guess they were talking about California's debt, which is the big problem because people in California are going to have to pay more and blah, blah, blah. But it's because of the Democrats that are there that have this attitude, like it's fine to be in debt and it's fine to tax people. And she said, you know what, so what? We've got this deficit, we've got this huge debt, but we're still waiting to find out who we're going to be when we grow up. That's the message she's giving her people, the people that are under her. I'm pretty sure she's the mayor.
I don't look at whose fault it is, but it's a problem that needs to get dealt with. And maybe people don't understand that because, we've been in debt for our generation. The last year that that the U.S. debt didn't increase?
Yeah, when?
The year we were born.
Wow, 57.
57.
Wow.
And now think of what that does to a culture. They've gone into debt more and more each year since then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really has affected how things are. Whereas, people start thinking, well, yeah, there's always debt. So what? They just print more money and it doesn't matter. It's just funny money. That a lot of attitudes are like that now.
Credit, that whole idea of credit came out too. So it's teaching us how to be consumers without having any kind of responsibility.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Plus the taxes, I think personal income tax in the States anyway, and maybe in Canada, it was introduced as a war measure, right? And then, the war ends, Second World War ends.
Keeps going.
And it just keeps going. Oh, wait, this works really good. We'll just
let me make a correction for anybody out there. I mean, not a correction, a confirmation for anybody out there who might be confused. But, it's often packaged that we had a budget surplus during the Clinton years. Nope. It depends on what they call the deficit. They redefined it. Yeah, you have a budget surplus if you don't pay your rent, you don't pay your, food bill and so forth. That's basically how they did it. But the debt increased every year Clinton was president. It got smaller, the annual increase, I think to 17 point something $billion. That was the lowest it got, but it's still an increase in the debt. It increased by 17 some odd $billion. But it was still an increase. The last decrease was the year we were born.
Wow.
Hey, up on the screen, I have this ad from Woolworths that you'll remember, and this kind of plays into what you were just saying. Take a look at the prices there. If you can look at your screen.
I just see 35 cents and 50 cents and 45 cents. What are those for?
What are you?
I just see prices. It's 59 cents near the top.
Oh yeah, that's for nylon
pantyhose.
Hose. That's for your pantyhose.
Yeah.
And then you can get a sport shirt
not
for
necessarily
$169.
pantyhose. Yeah, right. Not necessarily pantyhose. They're individual hoses then,
True.
I guess.
I'm glad you're here to clarify things. I'm getting it all wrong. We got parakeets for 98 cents. You could get a parakeet.
Oh yeah.
That's not bad. Oh. And that wristwatch, that must be a pretty super deluxe. It's $5.95. No, it's not $6. It's $5.95.
Oh right. Okay.
Come on, get it straight.
You guys, you're
moccasins,
classic.
79 cents. Who's making those moccasins?
Wow.
That's crazy. So this was the year that we were born. And
No kidding.
I know people are laughing probably just looking at this and thinking, how do you make money? Volume. It's like the guy who sells things for nothing. How do you make money? Volume.
And it was honest sales rather than trickery. Like, the special, snake oil, and it's just water with some thickening in it, and then they can make, because their expense for making the product is small, but it doesn't do anything. They just con people into believing it does.
I was hoping that you would
that
notice something. Dr. Judy, I want you to notice something because we've just been talking about credit, and you're the image analyst here. And I
don't have a very good screen image because I just have a tiny laptop.
Sorry. Okay. Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it's about 2/3 of the way down, just over where it says visit Woolworth's new luncheonette. Remember that?
Yeah.
Just above that. Take a look at what it says, and we'll explain it.
I just see a 50 cents. I can't read the
Okay. It says use our layaway. Remember layaway plan before credit?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you explain what layaway was?
I think it was that you want to buy something, and let's say it costs $10. Well, you put $1 down on it, and they keep it in the back room. And then you make another payment, and you got to get it by Christmas or whatever, so you have to finish paying off the $10 by then, but they save it for you.
And that
Right.
is the difference between credit and what we were used to dealing with. Is delayed gratification. You have something you want, and you have to go out and work your butt for it. And that day that you pick it up, and you just go, ooh, it's mine now. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And even better yet, it was, they save it for you. It isn't like you have to get the money before they sell it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
I would do
layaway.
that as a kid. I would do that as a kid.
Tell
As
me
a
about
little
it.
kid as a little kid in Victoria, like for example, my mother loved, that milk glass, white milk glass, and older people would have it on a shelf, or she had a set of chickens where the bottom base, and then it had a top that went on it, and it was beautiful. It's kind of almost see-through, kind of milk glass. Well, I would buy these things from my mother, and I'd go to all the antique stores on Fort Street, Fort Street.
do.
And I'd go in maybe in the summer or whenever I would see it, and I'd give the woman in the antique store a small deposit. She'd put it on layaway, and then during the course of the next couple of months, up till like say Christmas, I would go in and put in another 50 cents or whatever. And then eventually I'd have it paid for, and I'd wrap it up, and that would be my mom's Christmas present.
And that's so sweet, because you did that not just for yourself either. A lot of what we do is we put things on credit because we want them, but you did a layaway plan for your mom. That's really sweet.
Yeah, and she'd love it.
The problem is with today's standards is that takes the inventory out of circulation. And they also have to do storage on it and have a place to store it and bookkeeping on it.
Mm-hmm.
And now, do places still do layaway? Any places?
I don't, not that I know of. For the same reason that you just mentioned, because it takes it out of the inventory and it's like it takes up room.
Yeah, it's a bookkeeping and the storage and stuff.
Yeah,
I did something like this recently, but I can't remember where. But I think generally more in smaller towns, they'll still, I guess.
Yeah, I thought I'd seen something lately, but it was probably in a small town.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing for little kids because it's like, somebody else is managing their piggy bank.
That's right. And that's the way I utilized it. I mean, I didn't think about it, but as a kid, I could just keep going in and put in 25 cents, 50 cents, and then eventually I'd have it paid off for Christmas.
Imagine if you'd saved up that money and then gone in for the item and it was gone.
Oh, yeah, I would have been crestfallen, yeah.
Yeah. So it protects you from that.
Right.
And so it gives you the motive to keep doing it. And that actually is a good thing for a kid.
Well, this is what I'm getting at, because it isn't just the prices, but what I noticed about this Woolworths ad was the fact that it was layaway. And I think that's a huge difference when we're talking about debt and just people's attitudes generally. So it's kind of interesting that we got into that, because I think it's a huge paradigm shift in terms of how people think. And, you know, our generation is probably the last one to really remember no credit. We had no credit.
Yeah.
My mom would
Never
go
even
down to
thought of
Eaton's.
this.
She would use her credit card. We have Eaton's in Victoria, and or in Canada anyway. It was a big department store, and it would probably be like Macy's. Maybe it was kind of a chain store, but she would have the Eaton's card, but she would go and pay it all off at the end of the month. There was none of this carrying a balance business.
Right.
Or my dad would go out of town on a business trip. My mom would, pack a suitcase for him, and would go to the bank and get cash for him. You didn't, that's how you did stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You had cash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's the way American Express isn't popular anymore, and their interest is insane. But you're supposed to pay off your American Express card every month, right? So you stay responsible because you've got that American Express. You've got to pay it off every month. Well, now with Visa and MasterCard, I mean, shoot, our Visa MasterCards are completely blown up, and not because we went to the Bahamas for a vacation, but just, no money and broke. And no, we got to, we'll have to throw it on the credit card.
Yeah.
And what I don't like also about the card game, why I don't like credit cards, is because, they put fees on there, or they hold things back. Like, let's say you make a payment on something, they won't deposit it until a week later, and then they want to charge you fees for it.
That's right.
They play those kind of games. I bought my computer with a card, and it was something like $4,000 and some odd cents with some other stuff. This is years ago, and I think it was $4,100 and some odd dollars, and they typed it in as a credit my account with $41 and some odd cents. The decimal point in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And I was done with them at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I went to my bank, and my bank straightened it out because they saw that's what the thing was. No, I guess that was actually a check, and they typed it in wrong. Yeah, the check that I paid the credit card company with.
That's a kind of an anachronism as well.
Well, that's how I paid for the credit card, with a check, and then they had put it in wrong, and the bank had a copy of the canceled check and could see that I paid the right amount, but the credit card company entered $21 and some odd cents instead of $2,100. I mean 41. So they had a decimal point off a couple places, and then they charged me exorbitant fees after that. Yeah, and the bank called them and told them.
Yeah.
Good.
That's why I have a prepaid card. What's really funny is I go in and I put money on my prepaid card, and they say, "Are you going to pay for that with cash or credit?" And I'm thinking, it's a prepaid card. How can I pay for it with credit? Come on. Put your thinking cap on, you guys. Anyway, hey, on the screen, I found that Burlington Coat Factory does a layaway plan. Just thought I'd mention that for all you people out there that are wanting a coat.
So you order it, and you don't even get to see it before then.
Apparently not. Put it on layaway
And then
today.
I wonder if it's whatever is left on the rack is what they send you.
Yeah, this is pretty hard, though, because you got to complete your layaway by the 24th, which is tomorrow. So it's
Yeah, no, that's not going to work too well.
That's not.
We're not.
That's not so good.
Yeah. Hey, where are your kids, Joani? Are they going to come around for Christmas, or where is everyone? Your son's in Toronto with his successful restaurants, right?
Yeah, I got that one in Toronto, and his lovely fiance. Can I call her a fiance? I think so. Her name's Siobhan, which is great because I wanted a Siobhan, and so now I have one in the family. And so Nathan and Siobhan, they're in Toronto. We have Olivia, who is newly married. She got married in Montreal to a Mexican fellow, and his name's Irving. So Olivia and Irving are in Montreal, as is my son Elijah, who seems to get the short end of the stick, because I usually say, Olivia, and then Elijah. But he's my youngest, and he's used to being overlooked. But anyway, he's a musician in Montreal.
I know, but I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very good musician. And then I've got, who else do I have? Oh, I have Aaron, who is in Victoria with his amazing fiance, Kara, who I just love. And they're getting married in the spring, I do believe. And then I've got one son who lives up in Courtenay, which is up island from where I live. I live on an island, and it's sort of as big as England, let's put it that way. So he would be up in the Scotland area. And then I've got another daughter who lives more like down in the Brighton area. I don't know much about England, but I'm
Which one? Which daughter? Is that the one that I met?
Yes, Zoe. Okay, Zoe lives in Cobble Hill, so you got to go over the famous Malahat to get to Zoe's place. And
Zoe's the strong-headed one, right?
she's very strong-headed. That's a good way of putting it. Stephen came by. Hey, I guess we're kind of telling tales out of school, but she was fascinated with the idea that you were in a river runs through it. But then we started talking about some of the political stuff, and can't remember what her reaction was, but I'm thinking she wasn't all that keen. No, tell me what tell me what you remember about that, because that was a pretty funny meeting, actually.
She has her way of seeing stuff, and if you don't see it that way, that's it. You're out the door. She's
Did we have
closing
to
the
leave?
door on you. You're frozen out. Yeah, I think we physically had to leave.
Well, there you go, Dr.
And I'm
G.
trying to, and I think I was kind of being soft about the whole thing. And then she was ganging up on you because we were having this discussion. I thought she was on board. And then she turned on you. And then I came in. I think I was trying to defend you or your point of view. And then at that point, it was like, oh, it's freeze out time. Basically, don't let the door hit you on the way out, as she's,
You see, so you guys have had, the rest of the world, on your case. I have my kids who just think I'm completely nuts. I'll go, hey, look, there's a chemtrail up there. And I'm just kind of making an observation. I don't want to hear about it.
I think it was something like that. Yeah, it was something like that. And I always wonder, well, what about when people change their mind? Wouldn't it be nice if that when they finally realize you're not an idiot and you're not some conspiracy nut, and they actually realize that something, whatever it might be, something's going on, and maybe mom wasn't so far off base.
Maybe she didn't quite have it right, but there's something there.
Yeah, there's something there. And wouldn't it be nice if they could, because they don't do it very often. I'm just talking about people in general. I've had a few calls from LA, in the last 6 months, and, people basically saying, hey, I don't think you're crazy anymore. Or, hey, you were telling the truth. And wouldn't it be nice if family members and people did that, like kind of cop to, okay, maybe I judge you a little harshly, like you and the whole, whatever it might be, right? You and your evidence about the 9/11. Oh, maybe I was a little bit, opinionated. I think there's something to what you said, and maybe there is something in your book that some of it does kind of ring true.
But it's not my fault. It's what we were told on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. That nice blonde lady with the coiffed Washington, D.C. hair. Oh, it's her fault. She's the Rod Steiger. She made me bad. Oh, man. Anyway, I guess I'm going to sign off. Kim's going to be home soon. I think we've had what does the chat room think? Have they followed us along? I mean, we're kind of been all over the place, and it's great.
There. I'm just, I'm taking a look because I think I've got something weird going on with my sound here. Sorry for anybody out there that, oh gosh, there we go. Sorry if there was a problem with the sound. Let's just turn that up. Okay. Oopsie. Woohoo. Now it's really loud. Okay. I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's okay. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I'm just going to turn that down a little bit there. Well, see, you're taking off, eh? Well, we you know what? I think what we need to do before you go, if you don't mind, I'm going to play a little leader here to your film.
Okay.
First, we can't let you go without you talking about your film and what's going on right now.
Okay. Well, as we've already covered, I mean, I try to find out who beat up my ex-wife and who threatened my 4-year-old son. I record the conversation, and then I became enemy numero uno, and I, lived through that experience. So I wrote some short films and directed them, and they went to festivals, and one in particular was really successful all around the world. Um, so I was, writing and directing my little short films, and then I had my neighbor in Montreal who was a filmmaker, and he lived on the other side of a wall. And we did a couple little projects. We did a short film that went to festivals. And then I had this really kind of stupid idea, but crazy idea, an interesting idea to make a film with no script, but I'd write out scenes. And I didn't ever sit down and write a 120-page script. But what I did is I had it all in my head, and I only wrote out scenes as we went along. And I would go out on the street, and I'd see someone that I knew, and they weren't an actor. And I thought, maybe I'll fit them in. And then I'd go, and then I'd say to them, listen, if I give you like 2 or 3 pages, can you look it over and try to memorize it, and we'll shoot it tomorrow? And they'd agree, or usually they'd agree. So I'd go home, write up a scene, and then hook up with them, give them the pages, meet them the next day, and we'd shoot the scene. And that's really how I made this film. So I wrote it's an 80-minute dramatic feature film. And it is about some of my experiences, but it's not about me. And I've made it in such a way, I hope, and this is what I've been told, so it kind of reaffirms for me what I set out to do. Anybody, whether you're into anything conspiratorial or not, it doesn't matter. People in general like watching a compelling movie. So anyone can watch my film, and it's just a dramatic thriller art film, but it does deal with some subjects, and that's basically what it is. And I'm really proud of it, and I'm trying to talk to I've got some people talking to people about distribution, but at the moment I'm giving it to people for if someone gives me a donation of say $10, then I'll send them a copy. And it looks like because it is a real film, and it's got a DVD cover, and that's it. It's a feature film that I wrote and directed.
Okay, I'm going to let people know that they can actually purchase it off of your website, which is stephenschellenberger.com, or you can go to tipsok.com, and you'll see there's a profile for Stephen. And the whole purpose of Tips OK is that people like Stephen, well, any artist, anybody who's putting themselves out there and not making an income off of anything except for their creations, deserves a tip every once in a while. So this is a virtual tipping site. It's a place where you can go and give him a little love for his work and also for the film itself. So you can also buy the film there if you want to, and he'll send it off to you. I'm going to play a trailer right now, and so I'm going to put that up on the screen.
Oh, thanks, Joani.
Well, we're playing it right now. We'll be quiet. Take a look on the screen.
Ever since I've been trying to find out about this girlfriend that disappeared 25 years ago, I feel like I'm being watched.
My God. Who do you think we're dealing with here?
Underground labs, this is all. Don't ever fucking contact me ever again. You don't know what you're getting into.
Terrible quality of having to know. There's a crazy feeling of not finding out. Curiosity kills the cat. I didn't see anyone, but you tried to hurt me and you don't even remember.
Pure evil. Can I make it any clearer?
You're a real science project, aren't you? You got me. Sick group of people.
Wow, that's amazing.
Which clip did you show?
I showed the trailer. I was hoping
Oh,
that
okay.
you're following along, but
I couldn't see
yeah,
it.
yeah, it's amazing. So
Oh, good.
that's well, you've got some stuff coming up, and we're going to be talking the new year, and letting people know about what you are doing with the film and with other things, and so I'm really looking forward to that. Is
Yeah, what
yeah,
just came to mind. Sorry to jump in, but I was thinking about Matt Lauer, what's his name?
Lauer.
Lauer.
Lauer. Yeah, and how he's gotten booted off the show and stuff. But I didn't realize that the guy he was pulling in something like,
25 million a year.
yes. And when you're speaking about the tip thing, it's like, people like yourself that are doing this and putting together your show, your interviews, and basically you're putting yourself out there. You're doing the labor, you're doing the work, and a lot of people now are going to the internet for information, obviously, right, and for to piece together their own, hopefully sort of assimilating all the information and making their own decisions, right? Like the critical thinking that you always talk about, Dr. Judy. So, but the thing is, he was making 25 million. And yet, people seem to forget, like, well, wait a second. Joani sets things up, does things, edits it, puts it together. It's like that really, the tip thing is really essentially just saying, yeah, I appreciate what you do, and I'm coming to people like you for information, for entertainment, whatever. I mean, when you think of that guy making that kind of money, it's almost like a dinosaur now,
Well, what I think of with that is, at that price, he'll say whatever they want him to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's bought. Yeah, he's
exactly.
Yeah. And I think that everyone that's putting out information, there should be, they should be somewhat compensated, because people are forming their opinions now based on, shows like yours and others. And they're putting together, like, the whole news thing, other than someone our age or older, it's just a dinosaur, man. It's like, do people really?
But it's what brainwashes people. It's what controls public opinion. What we really need to get back to is just community. And how was information spread around in 1920 or 1930? It was like, the ladies' gossip circle served a purpose.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
Hopefully we're doing something a little bit more than gossiping here, but I think...
Oh, yeah, but they wouldn't... Gossip has gotten a bad name. Back then, I meant it was, the gossip, it was like, it's also exchanging all of the news.
It was kind of the
grapevine. There, that's a better term.
Well, I just wanted to add to what Stephen said. Those were kind words, Stephen. But what I'm really trying to do, and I always have done, is to try and facilitate something that makes puts people in touch with one another, and that's what I do in my radio show, and hopefully what I'm doing here. But what I like about the idea of tipping is that in the virtual world, it's very difficult to get money to people unless we're putting together a formal campaign, and it sounds like begging, and there's no reason why people need to be begging. I think that tipping is a great way of just saying, you know what, I really appreciate what you're doing, like that guy on the street or woman who's got the guitar case open, and you just go, wow, this is really cool, and you just throw in $10. And I have to say that it's inspiring what my son Nathan is doing at his restaurant. He just basically has people pay what they feel that the meal's worth, and he said that he does very well with it. And
that's amazing.
And he also pays his staff really well, and they do get tips on top of it. But he says they shouldn't have to rely on tipping, so it's not necessarily your base of income. But why I put together tipsok.com was for anybody and everyone who has a performance. And I guess that's what we're doing right here, too. We're performing and we're putting out some information for people. And if you like it, go over to tipsok and give something. Give something to Stephen, give something to Dr. Judy, give something, whatever you feel it's worth.
What also, I'd like people to understand is unlike Matt Lauer and Katie Kirk, or whatever those names are, that I'm voluntarily stuck my neck out to present information, and I get beat up a heck of a lot from it. And a lot of people don't realize that it's what's the benefit?
And not only that, but you are not able to do what you have been trained to do. Here's a person who has their PhD, who has a master's in another area, and I always get that wrong.
No, similar area, engineering mechanics, and then PhD in materials engineering science. But because of I've been tainted by all of this this trash, and why people say, why haven't other PhDs come forward? That's exactly why. Because when I came forward, well, even before I came forward, Stephen Jones put my name out there. My dean got letters and emails from trolls. So did my department chair. So did all of my fellow faculty members in the department. Got all sorts of smear jobs. I was renting a house at the time, and I learned on reading a forum what my landlord's address was and what books he'd written and all sorts of stuff.
You're putting other people at risk as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that really bothered me that those people didn't bargain for that.
Boy, do I hear you. I hear you, Dr. Judy. Boy, do I hear you. I hear you.
Yep.
Yep. I'm still got 2 legs. I can still memorize. I'm still a viable, healthy, creative person. I got shut down 23 years ago. Yeah. And the agents went along with it. They can't submit me for anything. Why? We're afraid of what you might say. What? I'm just going to go in and do my job and come home. I mean,
because you won't say necessarily what they want you to say. You might speak the truth, and they wouldn't like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely, boy, I get your story, man. Wow, loud and clear. And yeah, you put yourself out there. Maybe at the time you and I didn't think it all through. Although in my case, it was my kids. I wasn't going to stop anyway. But
well, I sent an email to Stephen Jones, and then he presented on one of his presentation the next day. He wasn't allowed to use my name. Well, female faculty in the mechanical engineering department at Clemson University. Well, there's only one.
Right, you were done.
Yeah, I was done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you that are listening, and for those of you that are going to hear the recorded version of this show, keep it in mind. You guys wonder why folks don't come forward. You wonder why people don't talk about Harvey Weinstein, why they don't talk about all these situations. How many of you would be willing to do that? How many would be willing to put themselves on the line because of something that's happened in your life? Most of us are used to keeping it quiet. Don't tell anybody, and then that's how family is destroyed as well. That's how friendships are destroyed, because we've got all these secrets, we've got all these things. Sometimes we have things on other people that they're afraid to have disclosed. So by having something,
so they got to get something on you to protect themselves, and It's just a card game.
And you wonder why the members of Congress have been compromised, or the FBI, or the CIA, or any of these guys. They've all had something on them that can be used in the case that they actually come forward and tell the truth. So none of this is a new thing, and it's all very similar.
But it's why they like those people in Congress, because they have something on them, so therefore they can control their vote.
Absolutely.
Precisely.
And this is the brownstone thing that my ex was involved in, and this is how everyone's been compromised. My feeling is just come out and tell the truth and deal with it, And
I think that's what the problem was.
Don't let them have you over a barrel.
With Roy Moore, why they're trying to any which way they could to get rid of him, because he couldn't be controlled.
That's right.
That's right.
And so just to go back to the tips okay thing for a minute, that's exactly why I set that up. It's for people that can't be controlled, and it's a direct way for the audience to say, you know what, I appreciate what you're doing here. YouTube is being demonetized. I'm going to tell you that this show I'll get a message that says that it's not appropriate for all audiences. Anytime
because
that I have Dr. Judy on here, Stephen as well.
And me too,
It's amazing how you're not appropriate for all audiences. And basically they're saying that the advertisers won't get behind anything that Dr. Judy does. So we have to bypass all of that.
That's
The
right.
work is not that people aren't afraid to work. I mean, you're working harder than anybody, Stephen and Dr. Judy, and I would say I'm in that category too. But people would say, what a bunch of bums, get a job, you know.
I know.
Exactly. Like all of us are skilled human beings who are working behind the scenes to make life better in our own ways. And I'm sure there are people in our audience that are doing that as well. And I want to say that in the new year, Stephen and I were talking about doing a show. Dr. Judy and I have been doing a show. But I like the idea of Tipping Point, which is another idea of just getting some of the stories out there that people can relate to, and encouraging other people to tell their stories as well, which is what character driven is all about as well. Being driven by character, not by money.
I wanted to say too, just quickly, that so you think those that think we're bums and don't do anything, buy Dr. Judy Wood's book, have a look at my film, buy my film, like, you know. And yeah, we stuck ourselves out there. We put our necks out there. Yes, that was our choice, but the ramifications. And what kills me too with Dr. Judy is that the detractors, or the shills, or whatever you want to call them, the perps, the scum, they'll always go back to, she wrote that book and she just wanted to make money off her book. What?
It's essentially sold at cost.
Exactly. What money? What kind of huge truckloads of money have you made from writing the book? Wow.
If I wanted to make money, I would have sold, one or two chapters and call that a book, and another one or two chapters and call that a book.
Yeah.
But then there'd be holes in the story. I wanted the story to be complete. That's why it had to be together.
Can I just say something about that too? If you wanted to make money, you would have continued to be a professor and kept your head down and not done anything and not published your book, and you would be living the high life right now. You would have a pension, you'd have a health plan, you'd have everything going for you, and you gave all of that up in order to disclose the truth, and that's what I call character.
It's commendable. Yes, it is character. I was told unanimously by every agent and every producer and everybody I knew in the entertainment business, almost verbatim, the same thing. Forget about your kids and maybe you'll work again. So, are you kidding? Wow. You talk about heartless? Wow.
Forget about what matters in life and sell your soul, then you'll work again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So anyway.
Yeah. So
okay,
on that note, I just want to say Merry Christmas, Stephen, and thanks for being with us and for telling your story.
Thank you both.
And we're going to talk to you
thank you
again.
both.
New year, new exciting stuff coming along, and I hope lots of people will see your film and see what an amazing artist you are.
Thanks.
I'll let you go, and I'm going to stay here with Dr. Judy because we have a couple of songs that we need to play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Goodbye.
Okay.
Season screens. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Okay. Well, that was exciting. Great to have Stephen back on board. He is.
Yeah, that was wonderful. And hearing all the ins and outs of the Hollywood scenes and so forth.
Well, I'm surprised that you hadn't heard some of the stories before.
I'd heard bits and pieces, but I didn't have it all together.
Mm-hmm. Well, now you have at least an overview. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat.
It makes me think that it's kind of like in Congress, that they set somebody up, and they have a freshman orientation for new Congress people. They get them in compromising situation and take pictures, so then they have something on them. And it was almost like they needed to set up Stephen to control him, and he wouldn't be controlled, and that was a problem.
Yeah, well, he doesn't mention the part about a show that he was doing that he doesn't even like to mention because it's got some bad memories for him. But anyway, he was quite a famous star in Canada anyway. He was in a very, very popular show, and that was part of the deal. He decided that he didn't want to do the show anymore, and that's when he was sent to France in the first place because they were doing a version of the show. Now, why France? It's a Canadian show. Now, I don't understand all the ins and outs of that either, but I certainly know that there was some stuff happening in the background that had everything
Maybe
to do.
it's they because they're more free to do stuff outside the law.
Well, it just so happens that the woman that was put onto him was in Paris, where they were shooting the show.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any coincidences there. And Stephen has paid the price. I mean, he was a rising star. If you take a look at any of his pictures and what he was doing with A River Runs Through It and different, I was almost going to say the name of the show. But this show he was doing in Canada, he was on his way to being a really big star. And he gave that all up to do the right thing when his kids were involved.
Not a lot of people do that. And it costs you to do the right thing. But what kind of a world do we have if no one does that?
Not much. And that's what I love about this ability to look back and take a look, not that long ago. I mean, it is getting longer and longer, I suppose, as we get older. But I've got something on the screen right now. It's not a real newspaper, but it's some of the things that were happening in 1957. Lena Horne came out with Summertime, Jailhouse Rock. I think this is interesting. The Soviets launch Sputnik. And yet, 12 years later, we've got some people on the moon. Wow. It's amazing, eh? How did that happen?
One-upsmanship. Why can't we do something in 12 years nowadays? The progress is much slower.
I would say so.
And there's more people, more qualified people, but progress is much slower.
Well, I wonder how... Okay, so here we go with a little bit of the moon thing. I'm not going to get too far into it, but I think people were able to suspend their disbelief a lot better in 1957, and folks were able, the crew as you call them, were able to get away with a lot more as far as being scrutinized. And then after that, they couldn't do it anymore. So I think there's a correlation there between the moon situation.
Oh, I see what you mean, that they couldn't pull that off again.
Yeah.
I guess because communication got better.
Yeah. People were they're figuring it out. So you got Kennedy, and they said, don't be a conspiracy theorist. And then you got Martin Luther King, and you got Robert Kennedy, and you got the moon. You got all that stuff happening in a very short period of time, and Vietnam. And I think Vietnam was the wild card, too, because people started getting up in arms and saying, you know what, we don't believe your Gulf of Tonkin BS. We're not buying into it anymore. And I think they were just finding that 60s malaise was wearing off, and people were actually cottoning on to what was happening. How's that for a theory?
Yeah, I think I don't see anything wrong with that theory at all. That because especially the laid back hippie mentality, people had time to think, and they were thinking and saying, wait a minute. But you never heard it. I guess because still the media was controlled, so you never heard it pop out in the media. Mm-hmm. But remember how expensive it was to make a long distance telephone call.
Oh, I know.
And so you didn't have relatives even passing on such information unless they physically met, and that wasn't going to happen very often.
Good point.
So there wasn't like emails and internet stuff. So now information flows around so much that of course the crew uses it to their advantage to direct the crowd, so to speak. But before then, when it was just community to community, I think they could pull off stuff more easily, because you assumed the stuff that you just didn't know, because those people in the big city over on the other side of the country, they knew. And so it's easier to fall for it.
Well, if it came
up to belief.
Sorry. I still think that there was the situation that took place in 1970, which was pivotal for me. I was 13 at the time. It was the day before my 13th birthday. And it was the Kent State situation. And I went to school and I was crying because I was involved in the Student Anti-War Committee at that time. And I was just a kid, but I used to go up to the university, and I was involved with a lot of the activism that was taking place because I had older brothers, and they were taking part in that as well. And it was really personal for me, and I thought, okay, government agents and guys with guns can come onto campuses and kill people. Before that, it was they could shut down riots, they could use water hoses. They were killing people.
I wasn't so, 'cause we didn't have a TV, so didn't see it quite the same way, and I didn't read newspapers or anything, but it was just like stories I heard. As far as I knew, it was like Vietnam. They tell about how many people got killed in this or that event, and it was like a distant kind of story that it wasn't right in my lap. But now, as I got older, looking back into that's weird. They actually shot into the crowd and just killed people randomly.
And innocent people, because one of the guys was just walking across the parking lot. Apparently, he had nothing to do with the protest. For me, it was so personal, and I don't know why, but I was literally at school crying the next day and thinking they're going to come.
Was it to cut down on all the people demonstrating? Because that's an easy way to shut it down.
Well, see, that's the indication to me that the crew was out of control, because they didn't realize that things were going to get out of hand. They didn't realize that people were going to actually not go to classes. And I think the night before there had been some sort of one of the buildings had a firebomb lobbed into it. So there was actual nefarious activity happening on behalf of the Vietnam protesters. There's no question of that. And a lot of people will say, well, they brought it on themselves. You don't bring the National Guard shooting students on yourself. There is I mean, I don't even understand.
Yeah, I would think
that
they, would they use rubber bullets, or now they would use energy weapons to microwaves to to disperse crowds.
They didn't use rubber bullets. They used real bullets.
Right, they used real bullets. Right, right. But didn't they have rubber bullets back then? I know they didn't have energy weapons then, but they must have had rubber bullets or blanks at least, because they had starter guns.
Sure.
And then that would disperse the crowd for sure.
Yeah, and before that they were using a lot of tear gas.
Right.
That was the thing of choice. Or you'd see the riots, the Watts riots in 1965.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was.
There was lots of tear gas for that.
And they're using fire hoses.
Smoke.
They had people up against the wall, but to actually open fire, that was the part that really freaked me out. And
that does. It's like it's too extreme to dissect, to digest. It's like an executioner.
Exactly. And people who had it was so indiscriminate. It became, anyway, I think for me, that was the point at which I just went, these guys are not on our side, and they're scared of us.
Also, the guys who pulled the trigger, they were following orders, but how they must have felt afterwards. Like they just did it, but then, as young officers might do in a war, and then afterwards, if they're probably not still around, but it probably would kill them internally.
Well, I did hear an interview with one of them, and who was in that group. I'm not saying all of them had to shoot. They were told to shoot.
They don't know who got the bullet that they shot, if anyone did.
They were psyoped because they were told that these were the people who were throwing firebombs into buildings. Now, two things about that. One is they weren't actually the people. It was another breakaway group that did that.
But still, it's innocent until proved guilty. I mean, you need to try them. You don't execute them there.
You don't execute people. You just don't
go
into a crowd.
You take them to put them on trial.
In a civilized country, I mean, it's one thing to talk about how somebody didn't get their trial, but even if they did get their trial, there was no death penalty. So to me, that's a moot point. We don't go into crowds and shoot people. So what does that say to the average person? It's okay for me to go into a crowd and shoot people. And I say that was the change in my mind anyway. And that's evidence in my life, but I don't know how other people felt. But it became a chaotic world at that point where I thought, in my mind, anybody could come onto my university campus. I didn't know that it was any different. I thought they could come and just kill me. So what does that do? It makes me go, I'm not sure if I want to belong to the Student Anti-War Committee. I'm scared to go up there. It was the beginning of the end as far as people feeling safe to be able to protest.
Yeah, that's true, and that I think was there was a problem with the Vietnam War.
Oh.
Yeah, that people weren't digesting it, weren't taking it, and the people didn't come home as heroes either.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be destructive to a human being, to come home and then have everybody hate you because you were drafted and did what you're told.
Yeah. Well, things totally unraveled from there because I was actually in a military family, so I saw the difference living in a military camp up until 1965 and then living in a civilian, as they call it, a civilian community, and becoming anti-war. And my dad had retired, so he was quite anti-war as well. He'd served in 2 wars. And so I got a really interesting perspective, I think, and I just thought...
But that was, you were in junior high then, or, that age.
By that time, yeah. But there was such a quick change around from where I was very empathetic with the military mentality, shall we say. So of anybody, I was a sympathizer. And then I had a change of heart because I realized that this was not your typical war. This was a ruse. It was a put-on war because my brother was harboring draft dodgers and they would be telling us about what was happening. And I'd say, well, how come they're doing this? And they said, well, they're trying out new tactics. They're trying out Agent Orange, and the whole thing is just a big lie. It has nothing to do with communism or any of the other lies that were being
I wonder if we each kind of figured out in our own ways, what the world was about, that we're told stories.
Mm-hmm.
And, and we know it's just stories.
I think so. And some people never come to that. And those are the ones that are saying, why don't you just, put your head down and just do what you're supposed to do and ignore the rest of it.
Become a robot.
Become a robot, an automatron.
And that's what's happening. And so we don't have, free people anymore in this world.
Yes. If you do recognize what's going on and you begin to talk about it like we're doing right here, we're getting shut down. The evidence is that this very video that we're making right now, and I haven't even
and that
monetized
proves in itself that proves that we're not a free society.
Exactly. Yeah. It's yes. And it's stunning because some of the shows we've just talked about very innocuous things. But I get a message right after the show has been put up on YouTube that it's not appropriate.
Well, it's just like why my band mentioned my name as banned on YouTube, on Wikipedia.
They must be scared. They're running scared.
They're afraid that somebody hears of my name, they might go look me up.
Uh-huh.
But of course not Richard Gage and so forth. So you have to wonder. Yeah, they're safe because that's a cul-de-sac to funnel people to.
Mm-hmm.
And probably most things are, and let's think in general. Most things will have a cul-de-sac to suck people up, so they quit asking questions.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that those are the ones that are the most negative about your message too? There's also the trolls out there that are designed to put the doubt in other people's minds because people are so influenced. And that's where the Calvin Klein genes come. Everybody has to wear the same thing, do the same thing, watch the same shows. And we've been conditioned.
Michael Jordan tennis shoes that kids get killed for, and they cost like $300 a pair for elementary school kids.
Yeah. But
And I
it's this
think
idea that you have
that's
to
what
wear
happens.
the right clothes and do the right thing. And then if you are out of that lockstep, then you are going to be
You're
punished.
supposed to be made fun of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what people have been conditioned to do, and it's all
They're
coming home to
very.
roost now.
It's very easy to do that. Like that starting slide I used in Toronto. There's a picture of a flock of birds taken off. I think they're ducks or geese or something. They're all taken off. And my question was, which one knows why they're taken off? They all just go because they don't want to stop to think about it, because maybe they'll get had. That there must be a reason, so they all take off, just like a herd of deer. One spooked and they all run.
Right.
So there's some safety to that, and so it's an instinct in there, the safety in numbers kind of feeling. But if you can control that lead deer or lead bird, you can control the whole flock.
Exactly.
And that's been weaponized.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, that's a happy kind of Christmas show.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm just going to get
Hey,
back
we
to
had some snow here. We had real snow. I just saw neighbor was throwing out their newspapers I was using for my chicken, and I looked at there's this cover image of the Clemson students going down sliding. There wasn't really enough snow to slide down the hill, but they're trying. Because there's enough snow, they're trying to sled down the hill.
that
was early.
We do what we can. Apparently, we're going to have snow for Christmas here. I'm on the west
Oh,
coast
wow.
of Canada. Yeah, I've got snow on the ground right now, but it turns to ice here, and I was literally having to crawl across the driveway at a certain point because I couldn't navigate the ice. So it's not a good situation.
Here's an idea. You get a cane, and you know that rubber tip? Pop that off.
Uh-huh.
Get a washer with a sharp screw to go through the bottom, and then put it back on.
Oh.
And so you have a cane with a big spike sticking out of it.
Nice. You're obviously really adept at this. I'll have to get better at it.
It keeps you from slipping. It's sort of like a mobile railing, to hold on to. It's better than nothing. Anything else is going to slide out. But it's kind of like gripping teeth, into it. But it's surprising you have snow, because I know Seattle doesn't get much snow, except in rare events.
We're actually at the same latitude as Seattle, so we get the same weather, but we do get snow from time to time.
Same longitude.
But yeah,
you're further north.
Yeah, you're right. Longitude.
And so, but it's the same kind of area. And you have what, Japanese currents or something, and that usually keeps it a little bit warmer there. So it's like 36 degrees and raining.
It can
barely raining.
But you see, the problem with this, and people make fun of us because they say, oh, yeah, you guys, as soon as it snows, you're, all over the road. Well, it's not your normal kind of snow, because usually that packs. But this is basically rain or sleet, and then all of a sudden
Slush.
at about 5 o'clock when the sun goes down, or
it freezes.
It becomes ice. It's just a wall of ice, and I dare you to try to drive on that. It's impossible. So it's not the snow, it's the ice.
And that's like here. And so what I would do if I was, working on campus, that's when everybody makes a run for it to get home before, things get bad. They end up piling up. So I stayed in my office until like 2 a.m. Then I go home and drive past all the wreckage, get home okay.
Good plan. You can actually go in the ruts of all the people that have slid off the road.
Well, by then the roads have been kind of cleaned up some, and the people in the ditch, and so.
Yeah.
But if you go to that, mad dash when they say, oh, everybody's leaving early and everybody makes a bad dash, there's always pileups.
Oh, you're the smarty pants in the group. Then there are the people that just go, oh, I think it's going to snow. I better leave now before everybody else leaves. Those are usually the professors here. So.
And then but the road's all jammed, with that. But it's interesting how it goes in different places. But yeah, here is definitely
this is
pileups.
before it's like they can smell the snow in the air. It's before it ever happens, and you got the people that really want to get home, so they go before the snow actually comes, and then.
Let me get that news article. It might beep a little bit. Let's see if I can.
Hey, I'm gonna play a song, and I'm gonna leave the mic open because then we can talk over it if you want. But you've got to tune in if you want to see it. I wish there were another way to do it, but I'm thinking that this is it's the same thing where I've got a picture, but I don't actually have the name of the song. But we're gonna just play it. Okay, we've got it playing in the background here.
Lacy things, the wife is missing. Didn't ask for her permission. I'm wearing her clothes, her silk pantyhose, walking round in women's underwear. In the store there's a teddy with little straps like spaghetti. It holds me so tight, like handcuffs at night, walking round in women's underwear.
In the office there's a guy named Melvin. He pretends that I am Murphy Brown.
He'll say, are you ready? We'll say, whoa man, let's wait until the wife is out of town. Later on, if you wanna, we can dress like Madonna, put on some eye shade and join the parade, walking around in women's underwear. Lacy things missing, didn't ask permission. Wearing her clothes, silk pantyhose, walking round in women's underwear, walking round in women's underwear, walking round in women's underwear.
Okay, that was very unexpected, I'm sure, for those of you that don't know Dr. Judy's amazing sense of humor. Now, that was not actually a Dr. Judy song per se. She was the one that wanted us to do the gentleman.
The restaurant door said gentleman.
Yeah, we did do that a little bit earlier. We could play it
And
again
this what I would say would even be worse.
Oh, we're talking about politically incorrect. Yeah, I would say. And this was what, 1988 or something like that.
Yep,
Okay.
1988.
How things have changed. We're not allowed
It's
to
just
be.
in 1 year, even.
Yeah.
I found the newspaper thing. It said 40 wrecks.
40 wrecks, not REX, but WRECKS.
Yeah, pileups.
Yes.
I like that they call it wrecks instead of accidents.
Yeah, there's no accident there.
Right. It's wrecks, you know. Anyway.
Are you going to read it?
Yeah. No, I don't need to, but it's well, I could. It says rain turned to snow and sleet during earlier than expected Friday afternoon in Anderson. Schools also were dismissed earlier on Friday afternoon in Oconee and Pickens counties. Anderson School District 1 was canceled all after-school activities as well as athletic activities for Friday afternoon and Friday night. It's just boring stuff. The South Carolina Highway Patrol reported there were 40 wrecks that had happened, and South Carolina Department of Transportation employees will be working after hours as needed. Anyway, the point is that it causes havoc. How to handle these full panic. And you look at this picture. I should scan it in. These kids are in a cardboard box. These Clemson students, and you see grass and snow. I mean, so it's that thin, and they're trying to push this one kid down the hill in his box.
It's just too exciting to have the snow out there. You can't resist it.
Right, we don't get snow here, but maybe once a year.
Yeah.
at best. Sometimes it's been a couple years go by without any, but this was really early snow. Usually the one snow you get is in late February. But because of global warming, we're getting snow earlier and more of it.
Oh, you're so sassy.
Well, it's this and soon it'll be we're going into an ice age again. That was. Do you remember that in the late 70s?
Oh yeah, they were worried about that.
We're gonna have ice age.
Well, now they're actually talking about that again. What they do is subtly say it's climate change, as though that's a weird thing.
There's no longer global warming; it's climate change. Well, the climate changes from day to day.
Sure does.
And so they can always be right.
It's amazing, isn't it? Hey, I wanted to play a really obnoxious song that reminds me of Christmas because my brother gave me the Chipmunks album one Christmas, and I'm sorry, but I am going to put people through this. Not to change the subject from global warming, but now we're talking about Alvin, and this particular cut was one that I probably played 1,000,000 times, and I think my parents really wanted to just break that album, but I'm going to play it for you. I'm sorry, but I have to. Okay, it's the Chipmunks. Here we go.
All right, you chipmunks. Ready to sing your song?
I'll say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, Simon?
Okay.
Okay, Theodore?
Okay.
Okay, Alvin? Alvin? Alvin!
Okay! Christmas, Christmas time is near. Time for toys and time for cheer. We've been good, but we can't last. Hurry, Christmas, hurry fast. Want a plane that loops the loop. Me, I want a hula hoop. We can hardly stand the wait. Please, Christmas, don't be late.
This is the part I really liked. Where he gets mad at Alvin.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Simon.
Naturally.
Very good, Theodore. Alvin, you were a little flat. Watch it, Alvin. Alvin.
Okay. Want a plane that loops the loop. I still want a hula hoop. We can hardly stand the wait. Please, Christmas, don't be late. We can hardly stand the wait. Please, Christmas, don't be late.
Okay, that's all you have to hear. Turning the audience away.
What was it?
Oh, it was
Is that
Alvin.
the roasting chipmunks?
No, I'm looking for that one. I think I have it somewhere. And so anybody that just listened to that will probably appreciate this. Let me see if this is it. Not sure.
It's another Bob.
Yes.
There was one.
This is Chipmunks Roasting, for those that really hate the chipmunks. You can tune in if you want.
Chipmunks roasting on an open fire, hot sauce dripping from their toes. Yuletide squirrels, fresh filleted by the choir. They poked hot skewers through their nose. Everybody knows some pepper and a garlic clove help to make them seasoned right. Tiny rats with a crisp golden coat will really hit the spot tonight. And now when Santa sees his train, there'll be some homemade chipmunk jerky for his sleigh. And every hungry child is gonna spy
To see if chipmunks really sing when they cry.
And so I'm brushing on some honey glaze to keep them crisp and juicy too. Let's hope they get served many times, many ways. Tasty chipmunks, good food.
On that, Mr. Cole.
Yes, sir, Mr. Seville.
Would you mind handing me the barbecue sauce? I am starved.
Oh, no problem, Dave. Hey, listen, you best be having 2 of them drumsticks because they're oh so tiny and there ain't much meat upon them.
Okay, that's enough. I'm sorry, you guys.
Yeah.
I had to cut that off. It was just, there's a reason why some things just are not done anymore.
The PETA folks would probably get pretty upset with that one.
Yeah, I just saying that, there's reasons. We keep talking about how great things were in the old days. Well, some things, it was just as well to let them go. I think that was one. What do you think? Hey, do you want to do Stuart Smalley? I just wanted to, it's just short.
But yeah, that'd be fun.
Okay, Stuart Smalley coming up. Here we go. This is for
I deserve good things. I am entitled to my share of happiness. I refuse to beat myself up. I am an attractive person. I am fun to be with.
Daily Affirmation with Stuart Smalley. Stuart Smalley is a caring nurturer, a member of several 12-step programs, but not a licensed therapist.
I'm going to do a terrific show today, and I'm going to help people because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
All right. That was Stuart Smalley. For those that don't remember, that's the old Al Franken in the good old days.
When he used to be funny.
I suppose so. I never found this particularly funny, but I think what he was doing, if you lived in that era, you would sort of see the parody of the whole thing because everybody was going for the self-help. But it's kind of ironic in light of the current situation, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's I think you're right. That's what they're going at. But it was it was just relating to that what do you call it, quadrant of society.
Quadrant. Is it
yeah,
or
that or it's a subset or whatever. It was it was in a way making fun of it, but in a way making it normal.
Yeah.
But it was so overdone. It was kind of funny.
Was. The antidote to that is Bob Newhart has a thing where he's the psychiatrist, and if anybody wants to look at it online, you can. I don't have it lined up, but he is the psychiatrist that just says, just don't do that. Just don't do it. Because they'd say, I have this habit of doing this or that, and they're trying to get some sympathy. And he goes, oh no, he says, stop it. So it's kind of
just don't do it. That sounds like, what's his name, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, well, this is...
Yeah, just don't do it.
Stop it, Bob Newhart. I'm going to see if I can find it because, see, now people are just kind of probably going to go, this is not Christmas at all. This is no fun. But let's just see if we can find... I've got it here. This isn't a downloaded version. This is from YouTube. So you're just going to... It's... a few minutes, but you can watch on the screen, Dr. Judy, if you have it in front of you. Let me just see here. I'm gonna make it full screen.
You can also play Wreck the Malls.
I could do that. Okay, let's just see what we've got here. Okay.
Dr. Switzer?
Yes, come in. I'm just washing my hands.
I'm Catherine Bigman. Janet Carlisle referred me.
I think you'll like this.
Yes. Fear of being buried alive in a box.
Yes, that's me. Should I lay down?
Oh, no, we don't do that anymore. Just have a seat. And let me tell you a bit about our billing. I charge $5 for the first 5 minutes, and then absolutely nothing after that.
Oopsie. I didn't have the video going, so I got to do it again.
Dr. Switzer?
Yes, come in. I'm just washing my hands.
I'm Catherine Bigman. Janet Carlisle referred me.
Oh, yes. Fear of being buried alive in a box.
Yes, that's me. Should I lay down?
Oh, no, we don't do that anymore. Just have a seat. And let me tell you a bit about our billing. I charge $5 for the first 5 minutes, and then absolutely nothing after that. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Too good to be true, as a matter of fact.
Well, I can almost guarantee you that our session won't last the full 5 minutes. Now, we don't do any insurance billing, so you would either have to pay in cash or by check.
Wow, okay.
And I don't make change.
All right.
And go.
Go.
Well, tell
What?
me about the problem that you wish to address.
Oh, okay. Well, I have this fear of being buried alive in a box. I start thinking about being buried alive and I begin to panic.
Has anyone ever tried to bury you alive in a box?
No, but truly thinking about it does make my life horrible. I mean, I can't go through tunnels or be in an elevator or in a house, anything boxy.
So what you're saying is you're claustrophobic.
Yes, that's it.
All right, well, let's go, Catherine. I'm going to say 2 words to you right now. I want you to listen to them very, very carefully. Then I want you to take them out of the office with you and incorporate them into your life.
Well, shall I write them down?
Well, if it makes you comfortable, it's just 2 words. We find most people can remember them.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay, here they are.
Stop it! I'm sorry?
Stop it!
Stop it?
Yes, S-T-O-P, new word, I-T.
So, what are you saying?
You know, it's funny. I say 2 simple words, and I cannot tell you the amount of people who say exactly the same thing you're saying. I mean, this is not Yiddish, Catherine. This is English. Stop it.
So, I should just stop it.
There you go. I mean, you don't want to go through life being scared of being buried alive in a box, do you? I mean, that sounds frightening.
It is.
Then stop it.
I can't. I mean, it's been with me since childhood.
No, we don't go there. Just stop it.
So I should just stop being afraid of being buried alive in a box.
You got it. Good go. Well, it's only been 3 minutes, so that will be $3.
Actually, I only have a 5, so.
Well, I don't make change.
Then I guess I'll take the full 5 minutes.
Fine. All right. Well, what other
I'm bulimic. I stick my fingers down my throat.
Stop it! Nut of some kind? Don't do that.
But I'm compelled to. My mom used to call me fatty.
No. No, we don't go there.
But I've been having this dream.
No, we don't go there either.
But my horoscope did say...
We definitely don't go there. Just stop it. What else?
Well, I have self-destructive relationships with men.
Stop it! You want to be with a man, don't you?
Yes.
Well, then stop it. Don't be such a big baby.
I wash my hands a lot.
That's all right.
It is?
I wash my hands all the time. There's a lot of germs out there. Yeah, don't worry about that one.
I'm afraid to drive.
Well, stop it! How are you going to get around?
I think you get
Get
the
in the
idea.
car and drive, you kook. Stop it!
We're just going to stop it right there. Anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. Kind of cute, kind of funny.
Okay.
It kind of went on and on. I gave you a chance to have something to eat. Okay, so you said you have something that you want me to take a look at here. You've got the...
Well, I don't know if you want to look at it. It's if you go to the page that I give the link for, you can see the article at the top of the page. You see the picture of the kids in the box.
Just a sec. I'm trying to get to everything here. Okay. Kids in the box. Oh, here we go.
You see them?
Not quite. See, now why don't I see it?
Hopefully it doesn't sense you're in a different area and give you a different thing.
Yeah, the pictures don't seem to be coming up. Just a sec. Let's see. Oh, there they are. Okay. We got the kids in the box. And
Yeah, you see how there's not much snow on the ground? That's a big deal around here to get that much snow.
I'll just...
That was the point, just showing how little of...
There you go. For anybody that wants to see the picture of the kids in the box. This is the first snow update.
Undergrads, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the grass coming through. Boy, they are desperate. It's kind of like where I
that
live,
was
too.
my point. That was my point. It's like, all they can do.
I'm just going to put this picture up on the screen in case people hadn't seen it. It's the picture that we remember of how we dressed when we were kids. We had to wear the little socks, and we were estimating that the oldest kid is about 12. And can you imagine them wearing something like that now? It's kind of crazy.
They wear their pants down around their groin.
Yes, their groin. That's a good way of putting it. Now, I think that we need to wrap up. We're coming up to, oh gosh, we've been here for almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
For Pete's sake.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just see if we've got any other music that, we do have the Band-Aid, I think. Let me just see if they got that here lined up. Will they know it's
Got
Christmas?
nauseating, but it does kind of capture the all the different the rock people of that time, and how well they get along to do that. That a bunch of hotheads. That's pretty good.
Not bad. Okay, for any of you that might have been around in 1984, you might remember this. Don't know how old you were, but this was in our heyday, wasn't it? We were just youngins. Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go. Do they know it's Christmas? Band-Aid, 1984. Here we go. Starting now.
It's Christmas time. There's no need to be afraid. At Christmas time, we let in light and we vanish it. And in our world of plenty, we can spread a smile of joy. Throw your arms around the world at Christmas time.
That was Band-Aid. Was it Band-Aid?
Yeah, it was one of those kind of things. I think that's what it was. It's interesting. You see George Michael, who's no longer around, and is various other characters. They were so young then.
Oh gosh, yeah, so young. A lot of people might not recognize some of them. Boy George. Sting.
And
Bono.
Right.
Bono.
Yeah, they had Sting in the image when they're using the saying the word Sting. But Simon LeBlanc, I think, was one of them. They're with Duran Duran. Those guys were part of it there too.
Yeah, possible.
But the thing that grabbed me the most about this was no wireless mics or headsets or earphones.
Yeah. Well, you would notice
They had
all
real
that stuff. And this is prior to any of the other...
It didn't hit me before.
We didn't have...
Yeah, they were the first one before the Feed Africa. Right.
In a more innocent time.
And I think it was like, this is going to be a moneymaker type deal, and then others tried to copy it, but they broke the mold. I mean, they used it up. It didn't keep working for them.
Yeah. Was Michael Jackson involved in that? I wonder.
Not in this one, but the copycat one later.
Okay.
Feed Africa or something like that. And they had a different group of people. They had a wider age group. They even had Stevie Wonder in that one. And then, let's see, Kenny Rogers. I mean, it's just a wide variety of people. And Steve Perry. There's some other ones. Even Paul Simon was in that one. He was next to Kenny Rogers, and he was sharing the same mic, and he kind of ducked like he was going to the big guy was going to swing his arm, and he had to duck out of his way.
What I noticed was that Bono was quite small compared to the rest of them. I haven't really seen him next to other people, and
right. This apparently is where he got his claim to fame from.
Is it?
And his career blossomed after this, but he was real nervous, supposedly, for this. And you see how his shoulders are going round and round? He was doing that to calm himself down.
Right. Well, I'm thinking that this is the one that Bob Geldof did. And he would have known Bono and all those guys, the English guys. They were all in cahoots.
Right.
So that makes
sense. And apparently Boy George couldn't make it for that, but flew in right after some other thing he was doing, from the U.S. and flew in and got there after the others recorded. So that's why he's didn't seen with the other ones, but they patched it in. They had him singing, separately.
Man, it was like magic then, eh? Now even this show, you think about it, we're able to bring people in from all over the place. Stephen, he's from the east of Canada. You're from the east of the U.S. I'm from the west of Canada.
Right.
See, now we take it for granted. Before it was then a big deal, and you had to
fly somebody in.
Yeah, 84. You didn't just call it in. You had to be there.
And there was somebody else who couldn't be there who recorded something that was played, at the end or something that I think that was David Bowie or somebody like that. But it's amazing how well they all kind of got along. We didn't see them fighting. They didn't record those scenes, but still they could someone get along. The one I like about the Michael Jackson one, there's what's her name, Cyndi Lauper. Stand next to this other gal, I forgot what her name was, and the other one was just kind of like, you can tell she's putting up Cyndi Lauper, acting weird, bouncing up and down, and being like Cyndi Lauper would be.
Cyndi is a person of her own. She can't be imitated. I went to see Cyndi Lauper, and she's amazing. I love her. She's got such a range.
And she just starts screaming out whatever she's singing and bouncing up and down and looking like a weirdo.
Like Cyndi. She doesn't care.
Yeah, like she does. And the one next to her is kind of looking at me like you can tell she's just putting up with it. And apparently with that recording that Cyndi Lauper had too many jangly things around her neck, and they had to stop and make her take them off because it was the microphone was picking them up.
The bane of my existence. I had that happen the other day with somebody who was wearing a hat, and we had to stop and move the hat. And then you got the continuity problem because it's video. And now, because we've been on for quite a long time, I'm going to play one of mine. I think I've already played one of mine, which sent people away. But this one is Queen, and this is their Christmas song. So if you want to follow along, if you have your screen open there, we're going to play Queen. Here they go.
Share of tears. Oh, my friend, we've had our hopes and fears. Oh, my friends, it's been a long, hard year. Now it's Christmas. Yes, it's Christmas. Thank God it's Christmas. The moon and stars seem awful cold and bright. Let's hope the snow it's Christmas. Yes, it's Christmas. Thank God it's Christmas. For one night. Thank God it's Christmas. Christmas, thank God it's Christmas. Can it be Christmas? Let it be Christmas every day. Oh, my love, we live in troubled days. God, it's Christmas. Yes, it's Christmas. Thank God it's Christmas. For one day. Thank God it's Christmas. Yes, it's Christmas. Thank God it's Christmas.
That guy left us way too soon. I can't believe it was 1991 that Freddie Mercury left this world.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that long ago.
No, sorry, sorry about the levels out there. It's weird when I go between the videos and you. The levels are quite different. Yeah, Freddie. And that's one that people don't know about. Sometimes they haven't heard that particular cut from Queen, and I quite like it. It's got great words. You know, he's basically saying we should have Christmas every day, which is that sense of camaraderie and community and that sort of thing. He's trying to encourage us all, I think, through that song. I don't even know what era it is, but it's, I think, when Queen was in its heyday. Oops, oh, I didn't put that picture up on the screen. This is the picture that we had at the beginning of the kids. I quite like it. I keep putting it back up on the screen.
I like that little, the car track thing. It's kind of like the train. It's not a train set, but it's a lot akin to that.
Oh,
we had road sets back then too.
Okay, I'll put that one up back on the screen. I had the girls in their little gloves and such. But yeah, this is such a classic shot. I've got some other pictures as well, but I decided not to put a lot of pictures in here today because I knew that we would be chatting about things that didn't necessarily have to do with Christmas. But well, I think what we're going to do is wrap up, and we're going to wish people a Merry Christmas. So I'm going to let you say what you'd like to say, Dr. Judy.
I don't know if the train pictures. I mean, the car. There's something special about that, because now kids play video games on the computer, but back then it was physical objects and you interacted with each other, and it was real life.
Yeah.
And it was good.
I think it's a great shot, just mom and dad in the background, and everybody's happy. Everybody seems now I understand that, people will say, oh, they were just keeping all of the real life back. But there's something to even giving the semblance of having a happy home that can actually spill over. Now, if I had a choice, I'd rather have a semblance of a happy home and find out later that it wasn't all that happy than to be living amidst chaos as I'm growing up.
Exactly.
And that's
you,
what
you
I
could
say
even add. You could even add to this a railroad crossing and a train track, and so one kid gets the train, one kid gets the road, and they interact.
Yeah, what a strange idea, huh? Yep.
Yeah.
I always say that I didn't know that I had such a weird childhood till later on, and you find out sometimes later. And I feel sorry for kids now who basically didn't have much of a childhood at all. They had to grow up and didn't enjoy this kind of life. So I hope that people's Christmas can have a little bit of this sense to it, a little bit of the fireplace, a little bit of the family, and none of this kind of how to get along with your creepy in-laws that they're talking about in Cosmopolitan.
Fake it till you make it.
Cosmopolitan.
But fake it till you make it. Pretend that you're having a good time.
Yeah, be polite. There's nothing wrong with sitting and if you don't like what people are saying about your opinions, this is what people are always saying. Oh yeah, you go to these Christmas dinners and everybody disagrees with you. Well, I say shut up for a while. How about if you just ask some questions and talk about some of the things that other people are interested in, and then you'll get an invitation at a certain point to express your opinion. That's my theory about it anyway. And if people aren't liking what you have to say, then don't get on a soapbox at Christmas time. How about just get on with people? Wouldn't that be fun?
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. And on that happy note, I am going to play one of my favorites. This is, and I'm sure that you watched Charlie Brown's Christmas or saw it later.
Oh yeah, and his poor little Christmas tree.
Yes, and indeed, that's where we start. We start with him bringing the little Christmas tree out onto the stage, and everything is sweetness and light beyond that. So, Merry Christmas to all of you, and I hope that you have an incredible time with your family. And if we don't talk before the new year, if you can't tune into the show, Happy New Year as well, and we'll see you next year, as they say. Okay, here we go with Charlie Brown.
We're back.
And I'm going to say over and out for us.
are you stupid, Charlie Brown. What kind of a tree is that? You are supposed to get a good tree. Can't you even tell a good tree from a poor tree? I told you he'd goof it up. He's not the kind you can depend on to do anything right. You're hopeless, Charlie Brown. Completely hopeless. Rats! You've been dumb before, Charlie Brown, but this time you really did it. What a tree!
I guess you were right, Linus. I shouldn't have picked this little tree. Everything I do turns into a disaster. I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about. Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about?
Sure, Charlie Brown. I can tell you what Christmas is all about. Lights, please. And there were in the same country shepherds, abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them. And the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not. For behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. You shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown. Behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you.
Linus is right. I won't let all this commercialism ruin my Christmas. I'll take this little tree home and decorate it, and I'll show them it really will work in our play.